Chapter 34:10. Yes, I'm just a bait to lure you here. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then how are you going to escape now? Without the sovereign divine weapon, with your strength, it's not enough to fill the gaps between Bai Longjian's teeth. Let's talk about it later. Do you think we really care about the sovereign divine weapon and others? No. The only one we want to kill is you. You are also the target of this hunting plan. The white-clothed young man chuckled. Qin Feiyang froze for a moment, then laughed. Being targeted by the dragons, should I feel honored? You can still laugh? Your courage is indeed extraordinary. As for the honor, you should feel honored. After all, since ancient times, no one in the sky cloud realm can make us dragons go to war like this. So even if you die, it's a worthy death. The white-clothed young man nodded. So it's like that. Then I'll thank you in advance. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands. The fear on his face disappeared, and he looked extremely calm. You're welcome. The white-clothed young man waved his hand. No, I want it. Because if it weren't for you talking so much nonsense, it would be a bit difficult for me and them to completely get rid of you. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Me and them? Get rid of them? The white-clothed young man was stunned. Why did these words sound so puzzling? Then he looked at the middle-aged couple and asked, what does he mean by this? The couple looked at Qin Feiyang and seemed to be thinking about something. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, take your time to think about it. In any case, the longer it takes, the better it is for me and them. That's right. He wasn't Qin Feiyang himself, but an avatar formed by the 3,000 avatars. As for Qin Feiyang himself, he had already activated the concealment technique and ran in the opposite direction with his horsetail whisk, madman, and the others. No one knew where he was now. Not good. He's not Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, Bai Longjin shouted. What? Not Qin Feiyang. The eyes of the three trembled as they looked at Qin Feiyang in bewilderment. The incarnation looked at Bai Longjin with a mocking smile and said, then I would like to ask, if I am not Qin Feiyang, who am I? Although your appearance, temperament, cultivation base, and even the auxiliary divine arts are exactly the same as Qin Feiyang's, I can guarantee that you are definitely not Qin Feiyang. Bai Longjin's tone was extremely gloomy, and his sharp aura covered the sky as he pounced towards the incarnation. Haha, calling others idiots. Who is the idiot here? Brat, you want to fight with us? You're still too young. The incarnation laughed loudly as he looked at the white-robed young man. His eyes were filled with mockery. As the sharp light rushed over, it immediately shattered. Only that arrogant laughter was left, echoing in the void for a long time. No flesh and blood. This is just one of Qin Feiyang's doppelgangers. When the white-robed young man saw this scene, he was instantly dumbfounded. From the beginning to the end, he was like a monkey, being played in circles. What was even more ridiculous was that not only did he not realize it, he was even complacent and smug, calling others idiots. In the end, he was the real idiot. No, this is not a doppelganger. A doppelganger can't activate a divine art, the middle-aged man muttered. Qin Feiyang, just you wait. I swear, today's humiliation will be repaid 100 times in the future. The more the white-robed young man thought about it, the angrier he became. He suddenly raised his head and roared at the sky. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. In the distance, above a giant mountain, Qin Feiyang and the others stood side by side, looking in the direction of the white-robed young man and his two companions. Their eyes were filled with amusement, especially when they heard the faint roar. The sarcasm on their faces was undisguised. Young master, I'm really convinced. Wang Changyuan retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang with admiration. He thought that even if he could escape, he would definitely have to pay a big price. He did not expect it to be so easy. Perhaps in this world, only this man in front of him could do it. Don't. I'm just relying on 3,000 doppelgangers. Without 3,000 doppelgangers, it would be really difficult to get rid of them. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. When it's time to be high profile, you should be high profile. Why are you being modest? Madman rolled his eyes at him. Haha. Qin Feiyang laughed heartily. He had to admit that it was indeed very satisfying. The other party was full of confidence, thinking that they were already in the bag. But in the end, not only did they snatch the inheritance, but they also ruthlessly played with them. The only regret was that he did not see the white-robed young man's hysterical expression with his own eyes. If there's nothing else, I will go and repair my body first, Fuchin said. I also want to repair my body. Ghost Blade followed. Qin Feiyang looked at Fuchun and Ghost Blade and said with a smile, All right, but Ghost Blade, your body can go to my Sea of Qi, but your weapon spirit has to stay outside to guide us. What else do you need to guide us? Ghost Blade was suspicious. Nonsense. Look at this inner area. If you don't lead the way, how can we escape the hunt of the dragons? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Then it seems that I'm still very valuable. Ghost Blade smirked. Still showing off? Your value is only limited to the Devil's Land. Madman was disdainful. Cough, cough. Ghost Blade coughed and said with a smile, I was wrong. I was wrong. I will be humble and low-key in the future. Ghost Blade's weapon spirit appeared, and his body disappeared into Qin Feiyang's body together with Fu Chan. White-eyed Wolf rolled his eyes and asked, Why don't we go to the inner area again? Don't. Wang Changyuan, Pei Tianhong, and Ghost Blade's weapon spirit shouted at the same time. What a joke. If they went to the inner area now, wasn't that the same as sending a lamb to the tiger's mouth? Look at your cowardice, White-eyed Wolf said with disdain. Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and Ghost Blade didn't care at all. It was better to be cowardly than to lose their lives. They looked at Qin Feiyang. White-eyed Wolf didn't have the final say in this matter. They had to see Qin Feiyang's attitude. However, they noticed that Qin Feiyang was looking at Madman. They looked at Madman and their eyelids twitched. Because they saw that Madman was looking at the inner area, this little Madman couldn't be thinking of going to the inner area too, right? They didn't know what Madman was thinking, but Qin Feiyang knew that it was definitely because of that familiar call. Qin Feiyang also looked at the inner area and patted Madman's shoulder. No rush. Wait until you reach the peak ruler realm, then we'll try again. Madman didn't say anything. That familiar call had always been there. He really wanted to go in and see what was calling him. However, the mysteriousness and strength of the dragons made him not dare to step in. Who? After a long while, Madman took a deep breath and laughed. All right, we'll come again in the future. At that time, we'll turn that dog shit dragon's nest upside down. With that, he retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Then are we leaving the Een Demon Land now? And Qin Feiyang nodded. Then let's go. Artifact Spirit urged. It didn't want to stay in the inner area for a moment longer. Pei Tianhong was the same. As Qin Feiyang's words landed, he swept up a group of people and flew towards the central area. Wait a moment. Qin Feiyang quickly said, What's wrong? Pei Tianhong stopped and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his head and scanned the front. He shook his head and said, We can't go in this direction now. Can't go? What do you mean? Artifact Spirit was suspicious. It's very simple. The dragons already know that we are still in the inner area. At that time, they will definitely ambush us at the border between the central area and the inner area. If we run now, wouldn't that be the same as walking into a trap? Qin Feiyang laughed. Makes sense. Especially by Longjian and those three people. After suffering such a huge loss, they will definitely not let it go. Even if they don't ambush us at the border between the central area and the inner area, they will definitely ambush us at the exit of the Een Demon Land. In other words, we can't return to the eastern continent. Otherwise, there will be danger everywhere. Madman nodded. Wang Changyuan, Pei Tianhong, White-eyed Wolf, and Ghost Blade all nodded when they heard this. He really thought it through. Then if we don't return to the eastern continent, where will we go? Artifact Spirit asked. Isn't the Een Demon Land between the eastern continent and the southern continent? Since we can't return to the eastern continent, then let's go to the southern continent. As long as we leave the Een Demon Land and enter the southern continent, we can open the space-time teleportation channel and directly return to the eastern continent. At that time, will their ambush still have any meaning? Qin Feiyang chuckled. Haha, brilliant. All right, Let's take a detour and rush to the southern continent. Artifact Spirit gave a thumbs up and then pointed a direction to Pei Tianhong. Pei Tianhong immediately brought the few of them and sped away like lightning. Sure enough, it was as Qin Feiyong had expected. At the border between the inner area and the central area, a beautiful woman in a black dress stood in the sky and scanned the inner area. This was the woman who sneaked an attack on Qin Feiyong from behind. The black-clothed old man and the black-clothed man were also standing beside her. The three of them were currently looking at the depths of the inner area. The battle fluctuations just now did indeed have the aura of the white dragon sword. Could it be that they also met Qin Feiyong? The black-clothed man suddenly spoke, his brows knitted together. Other than Qin Feiyong's group, who else dares to challenge us dragons? The way this group of people does things is really hard to guess. I thought that after meeting us, they would immediately leave the inner area, but I didn't expect them to still be inside. There seemed to be a trace of anger between the black-clothed woman's smooth brows. Can't you play by the rules? Then are Qin Feiyong and the others already dead? The black-clothed man was suspicious. They all used the white dragon sword. They should be dead. The black-clothed old man said with uncertainty, Dead? If it was so easy to kill them, would they be able to roam freely in the Demon Land for so long? Let's go. There's no need to squat here. Let's go directly to the exit of the Demon Land. They have to leave the Demon Land and return to the eastern continent. A cold light flashed in the black-clothed woman's eyes. She turned around and flew outside without looking back. Chapter 34:11. Not long after the three of them left, a stone door opened in the sky. This was a legendary artifact of time and space. Three people walked out of the stone door. It was the young man in white and the middle-aged couple. The middle-aged man in white glanced around and looked at the inner area. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, We'll wait for them here. But before he finished, another time and space teleportation channel appeared. Three figures walked out slowly. The leader was a woman in a silver-white dress. She was about 20 years old. Her long hair was silver-white and fluttered in the wind. She was tall and had an outstanding temperament. Her skin was as delicate as a baby's. Behind the silver-haired woman, there were two old women. They had white hair, and each held a walking stick in their hands. The aura they emitted was unfathomable. Is this Brother Xiaobai? When the silver-haired woman saw the young man in white, she ran towards him happily like a little girl next door. The smile on her face was innocent. But when the young man in white saw this, he could not help but frown and waved his hand. Stay away from me. Huh. The silver-haired woman was stunned. She stopped and said with grievance, Brother Xiaobai, I didn't do anything to you. Why do you look at me like I'm the plague? Stop. The young man in white quickly reached out and interrupted the silver-haired woman. He then said, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. After saying that, he turned to look at the middle-aged couple and said, Let's go. Aren't we going to wait here? The middle-aged couple was suspicious. With her here, how can we wait? Go directly to the exit of the Demon Land, the young man in white secretly said. He glanced at the silver-haired woman from the corner of his eyes. There seemed to be a trace of irritation in his expression. All right, the middle-aged couple secretly responded and opened the stone door again. Seeing this, the silver-haired woman hurriedly shouted, Brother Xiaobai, why are you leaving? Where are you going? Does it have anything to do with you? The young man in white glared at her angrily. It has nothing to do with me. But before, we seem to have sensed the aura of Bai Longjian fighting with someone else. Did you meet Qin Feiyong? The silver-haired woman's big eyes flashed as she looked at the young man in white and asked. The young man in white clenched his fists. There was a trace of hostility on his body. I really did meet him. Didn't you get a bargain then? The silver-haired woman said. Are you done? The white-clothed young man suddenly turned around and stared at the silver-haired woman, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Taking advantage of others? It was obvious that he had taken a big tumble. Moreover, he did not believe that the woman in front of him had not thought of this. If he had really killed Qin Feiyong, he would have returned to the dragon lair. Why would he come here? Wasn't it obvious that he was mocking him? What happened? Brother Xiaobai, Did you fail to kill them? This is impossible. They even used the white dragon sword. Do they have 3 heads and 6 arms? The silver-haired woman was still acting innocent, which made the white-clothed youth extremely angry. Actually, he wasn't afraid of being mocked. After all, they were all adults who hadn't been mocked before. What he was afraid of was this kind of mockery, because this kind of mockery hurt his pride the most. All right, Brother Xiaobai, I spoke too much. Don't be angry. The silver-haired woman smiled apologetically. Let's go. A sinister look flashed in the white-clothed youth's eyes. He turned around and stepped into the stone door without looking back. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold back the anger in his heart and go berserk on the spot. The middle-aged couple smiled at the silver-haired woman and turned to enter the stone door. After the stone door disappeared, the silver-haired woman's smile disappeared. She looked up at the inner area and said with a smile, I didn't expect them to be so capable. Even the white dragon sword couldn't do anything to them. If it was just an ordinary person, could they force that old man to self-destruct? One of the old women chuckled. The silver-haired woman was slightly stunned. She looked at the old woman and said, Then according to what you said, with our individual strength, we can't do anything to him? It's probably difficult, but it's up to us. This time, Lord Dragon King asked you to come out. On the surface, it's to hunt Qin Fei Yang, but in reality, it's also to train you and test you. So don't be anxious. Take it slow. The old woman laughed hoarsely. That's right. We don't want to fail, but we don't want to make mistakes. The other old woman also laughed. Okay. The silver-haired woman nodded. After pondering for a while, she said with a smile, Then let's go to the eastern continent first. Although we were born in the Sky Cloud realm, we have never had a good tour of the Sky Cloud realm. This time, we'll treat it as a sightseeing tour. That's the mentality we should have. The 2 old women smiled. The old woman on the left waved her hand and opened a space-time transmission channel. I hope there are places in the Sky Cloud realm that can interest me. The silver-haired woman smiled and stepped into the transmission channel. The 2 old women looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. Although their princess looked innocent on the surface, she was actually very calculative in her heart. At the same time, in other places, there were several groups of dragons who were also silently calculating in their hearts. Time flew. 2 months passed. Southern continent. The Demon Land here was similar to the situation in the eastern continent. In the border area and the central area, there were many traces of berserk beasts and humans. Fights and robberies were common occurrences. This morning, 4 people and 1 wolf appeared in the border area. It was Qin Fei Yang's group. After 2 months, they finally came to the southern continent from the eastern continent. There was no need to talk about the dangers on the way. Fortunately, they had Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan, these 2 super experts. Otherwise, with the strength of Qin Fei Yang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf, it would be a fool's dream to cross the Demon Land and come to the southern continent. Even the transformed madman couldn't do it, especially in the central area. Not only were there humans looking for opportunities, but there were also berserk beasts living in the Demon Land. Most of their cultivation had reached the perfection dominator realm. If a battle really broke out, the madman could kill 1 or 2 after transforming, but if there were too many of them, he would only be slaughtered. All right. The exit is in front. We can slow down. Gu Ren pointed forward and smiled as if relieved of a burden. Qin Fei Yang and the others heard this and couldn't help but sigh in relief. In fact, the humans and berserk beasts on the way weren't a big threat to them. The main threat was the dragons. They were afraid of encountering the dragons on the way. However, looking at the situation, the dragons seemed to have all gone to the eastern continent. They didn't encounter a single one in the southern continent, which saved them a lot of worry. Roar. Boom. Battles at the border could be seen everywhere. Just like this moment, there were 3 battlefields in the surroundings of Qin Fei Yang's group. There were battles between humans, battles between ferocious beasts, and even battles between ferocious beasts. They fought to the point the heavens and the earth dimmed. However, Qin Fei Yang and the others didn't care about it and went straight outside. In these few months, they had experienced too much in the Demon Land. Although it wasn't a long time, They felt as if a few centuries had passed. They couldn't wait to leave this damned place. Look, the morning sun. The madman pointed forward and chuckled. Qin Feiyong and the others raised their heads to look. The sky above the land of the shadow devils was still densely covered by black clouds, making it appear extremely dusky. However, the sky outside the land of the shadow devils was clear and boundless. It was two completely different worlds. It's been a long time since I saw the sun. How nostalgic. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Ha, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and Gue Run couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that even the white-eyed wolf was tired of the demon land. Lords, save me. Suddenly, a cry for help sounded from the left. Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. They stopped in the air and turned their heads to look in the direction of the sound. They saw two bloody voices fleeing in a sorry state from that direction. It was a man and a woman. They looked to be in their 20s, and their cultivation wasn't bad. They were at the early stage ruler realm. Bastard couple, let's see where you can run to. Immediately after, a cold laugh sounded. A purple-clothed youth with 5 middle-aged men flew over like lightning. They seemed to be chasing after the man and woman. The purple-clothed youth's cultivation was only at the half-step ruler realm. However, the 5 middle-aged men's cultivation wasn't bad. 4 of them were at the early stage ruler realm, and the last one was at the late stage ruler realm. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan looked at the two. Their eyes suddenly locked onto the left side of the purple-clothed youth's clothes. On the clothes, there was the word God written on it. What? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Wang Changyuan looked at the purple-clothed youth and laughed. He's a disciple of the God Palace. Disciple of the God Palace? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Qin Feiyong transmitted. The superforce of the southern continent is the God Palace. Brother knows. I don't need you to explain. Brother is just thinking that it's too much of a coincidence to meet a disciple of the God Palace. The white-eyed wolf laughed evilly. What do you want? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and warned, let me tell you, the God Palace has no enmity with us. Don't take the initiative to provoke them. Right now, Qin Feiyong's motto was, if I don't provoke you, don't provoke me. Damn, brother, am I a wolf that likes to cause trouble? The white-eyed wolf said angrily. Yes. Before Qin Feiyong could say anything, Frenzy, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the artifact spirit all nodded. Do you have any morals? You actually joined forces to slander a pure and kind wolf? The white-eyed wolf's face darkened. Pure? Kind? Frenzy and the others were stunned and then rolled their eyes. Can you be more shameless? Do you think we don't know your character because it's the first time we meet? Soon, the man and woman ran to the side of Qin Feiyong and the others and begged, Lords, I beg you, please save us. As they spoke, they turned to look at the purple-clothed youth and the others. Their eyes were filled with fear and despair. It's not good for us to interfere with your personal grudges. Besides, we don't know why you have a dispute. Who is right and who is wrong? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. If you have the time to ask for help, you might as well run away. Frenzy laughed and had no intention of helping. Chapter 34:12. I'm sorry, it's indeed a bit abrupt, but we really have no other way. Please help us. The cause of this matter is also because of them. We are the victims. The man and woman begged again and again. If you say you are the victims, then you are the victims? In this world, there doesn't seem to be any bad person who will admit that they are the bad person. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. We are really the victims. Can you believe us? The man and woman were burning with anxiety. Qin Feiyong, the white-eyed wolf, and the madman looked at each other. It seemed that they really looked like the victims. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth and said, if you are really the victims, then you have found the right people because we are the embodiment of justice. Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. This was too much of a braggart. The man and woman also looked at the white-eyed wolf with a depressed face. They were afraid that they had met a fool, right? The embodiment of justice? Why didn't he say that he was the nemesis of the devil? At this time, The purple-clothed youth led a group of people over with a murderous aura. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the others, he shouted, "It's none of your business. Get lost." And the white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. He was quite aggressive. They didn't plan to interfere, so why was he acting like this? The madman secretly laughed and said, "Old Pei, Old Wang, you two are not doing well." "What do you mean?" The two were a little confused. How did they get involved? The madman joked, "As the former overlord of the Western continent, the disciples of the temple actually don't recognize you. Haven't you failed enough?" The two were speechless. They were indeed famous figures in the sky cloud realm, but because of this, ordinary people couldn't get in touch with them at all. Naturally, they couldn't recognize them. If it were the big shots of the temple or the managers, they would definitely recognize them at a glance. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong looked at the purple-clothed youth and muttered, "Why do I find him familiar?" Familiar? The white-eyed wolf and the others were stunned and looked at the purple-clothed youth suspiciously. "I've never seen him before." Moreover, this was their first time in the southern continent. How could it be familiar? Wait, don't tell me that he was also present during the exchange on Heavenly Cloud Island? Madman transmitted. Impossible. If he was really there, how could he not recognize us? Qin Feiyong shook his head, but he looked a little familiar. It wasn't the appearance of the purple-robed young man that was familiar, but rather the look in his eyes. "Didn't you hear me tell you to get lost?" The purple-clothed young man's face was filled with hostility. His patience seemed to have reached its limit. "Why can't we talk nicely? You can ask us to back off or get out of the way, but don't you think the words 'get out of the way' will hurt our friendship?" Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "It seems that you really don't understand." A cold light flashed in the purple-clothed young man's eyes as he shouted, "Beat him up! Beat him to death or cripple him. I'll take responsibility." The 5 middle-aged men suddenly burst out with a terrifying aura and rushed towards Qin Feiyong and the others. "You're courting death." A cold light flashed in Wang Changyuan's eyes, and an aura surged out. The 5 men groaned and were sent flying. One had to know. He was a perfect ruler. Just his aura wasn't something that these people could withstand. Not only were they sent flying, but their chi seas were also shattered. So strong? The purple-clothed young man was dumbfounded. The 5 middle-aged men crashed into the ground, and their faces couldn't help but turn pale. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of the man and woman when they saw the 5 heavily injured middle-aged men. They didn't hesitate to charge at the purple-clothed young man. They were both at the early stage of the ruler realm. The purple-clothed young man was only at the half-step ruler realm. He was only able to chase after the man and woman because of the 5 middle-aged men. Thus, at this moment, a trace of fear appeared in the purple-clothed young man's eyes when he saw the man and woman charging at him. "Don't you dare harm the young master." The middle-aged man at the late stage of the ruler realm roared and struggled to stand beside the purple-clothed young man. The man and woman didn't hold back at all. Because the middle-aged man's chi-si was shattered, he was no longer a threat. With a miserable cry, the middle-aged man's blood splattered everywhere. Only his divine soul remained. "Old Black," the purple-clothed young man roared, "Young master, hurry up and leave. We'll hold them back." Even though the middle-aged man was only left with his divine soul, he didn't retreat a single step. He swore to protect the purple-clothed young man with his life. The other 4 middle-aged men also got up and stood in front of the purple-clothed young man. They all urged the purple-clothed young man to leave. "How can I leave you all behind?" The purple-clothed young man roared. He looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said angrily, "Why are you all meddling in my business? Do you know who I am? I'm a disciple of the deity's hall." Seeing the purple-clothed young man's attitude toward the 5 middle-aged men, Qin Feiyong and the others were astonished. They had originally thought that the purple-clothed young man was a hedonistic son of a rich family. They didn't expect him to be so loyal. This was because they knew that the 5 middle-aged men were only the purple-clothed young man's subordinates. If it were anyone else, a mere subordinate, they would die. Who would care if they died? But this person, even in such a situation, still didn't abandon them? This was a bit surprising. Qin Feiyong looked at the man and woman again. It was reasonable for the man and woman to kill the purple-clothed young man and the others. After all, they couldn't be merciful to their enemies. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong caught an unusual sneer in the man and woman's eyes. How to describe it? It was like the sneer of a spy who had succeeded. Were they wrong? The real villains were this pitiful man and woman? The man and woman didn't stop. They continued to attack the four middle-aged men with murderous intent in their eyes. "Bastard couple, I'll kill you!" The purple-clothed young man roared, and a destructive aura rushed out of his body. Self-detonation. Qin Feiyong and the others were shocked. He chose to self-detonate without saying anything. However, after thinking about it for a while, he felt relieved. Since he couldn't win and couldn't escape, he would die even if he didn't self-detonate. It was better to self-detonate and die together. Although the man and woman's cultivation was at the small success ruler realm, they couldn't help but panic when the purple-clothed young man self-detonated. They immediately turned around and used auxiliary divine techniques to escape. Qin Feiyong and the others didn't move. After all, with Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong's strength, the self-detonation of a half-step ruler wasn't a threat to them. "Young master, don't!" Seeing the purple-clothed young man self-detonate, the 5 men cried out. "Isn't it just death? Have some backbone. 18 years later, you'll be heroes again." The purple-clothed young man said coldly. He glared at Qin Feiyong and the others with hatred. The destructive aura around him had reached the limit of self-detonation. "Backbone," Qin Feiyong murmured with admiration in his eyes. He said, "Old Wang, stop his self-detonation." Wang Changyuan nodded. He took a step forward and grabbed the purple-clothed young man's shoulder. A surge of divine power entered the young man's body, forcibly stopping the self-detonation. "You won't even give me a chance to self-detonate?" The purple-clothed young man was stunned. He then roared at Qin Feiyong. "Calm down, calm down." Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "What grudge do you have with them? What does it have to do with you?" The purple-clothed young man snorted. "You're quite arrogant." Wang Changyuan chuckled. He raised his hand and punched the purple-clothed young man's stomach. The purple-clothed young man cried out in pain. "I won't say it even if you beat me to death." The purple-clothed young man roared. Wang Changyuan was stunned. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf went up and asked, "Kid, why won't you say it even if you beat me to death?" "Because," the purple-clothed young man stammered. "Say it or I'll kill you," the white-eyed wolf shouted. His eyes flashed fiercely. "Embarrassing!" The purple-clothed young man panicked and roared. "Embarrassing?" Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. The purple-clothed young man lowered his head. His face was full of anger and pain, as if there was something that he couldn't say. Sigh. The middle-aged man whose body was destroyed sighed softly. He looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said, "Since you don't look like unreasonable people, I might as well tell you the truth." "Old Black, shut up." The purple-clothed young man glared at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's skin was indeed very dark, like a piece of charcoal. "It's already happened. There's no point in running away. Besides, you're a man. No matter what happens, you have to face it bravely." Old Black sighed. "It didn't happen to you." "Of course you'd say that." The purple-clothed young man said angrily, "Young master, your words are hurtful. We've been with you for so many years. Don't you know what kind of people we are? Let's talk about it later. You've treated us so well, as if we're your family. Your pain is our pain. You've been humiliated by them. We feel the same way." Old Black roared. The other 4 burly men nodded in agreement. The purple-clothed young man went silent. Old Black looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said, "It's like this. The 2 of them, the man is called Zhang Chuan and the woman is called Lu Mei. They are the same as young master, disciples of the temple." "They're both disciples of the temple?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "That's right. But they don't have any background. But the family behind my young master is quite famous in our southern continent. You should have heard of the Yun family." Old Black said, "Yun family?" Qin Feiyong, white-eyed wolf, madman, they had never heard of this before. because they knew nothing about the situation in the southern continent. The only thing they knew was the existence of the temple. However, Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan lowered their heads and pondered. Suddenly, Wang Changyuan looked at Old Black and asked, "Is it the Yun family, known as the second largest family in the southern continent?" "Yes." Old Black nodded. "I see." Wang Changyuan nodded. "Is the Yun family very powerful?" White-eyed Wolf looked at Wang Changyuan suspiciously. Hearing this, Wang Changyuan was speechless. Old Black, the purple-clothed young man, and the other four middle-aged men all looked at White-eyed Wolf in shock. He didn't even know about the Yun family? Was he still from the southern continent? Chapter 34:13. Is there a problem? The White-eyed Wolf was a little depressed when he saw everyone's strange expression. Of course there's a problem. As the second family of the southern continent, how can he not be powerful? Wang Changyuan was speechless. That's true. The White-eyed Wolf was stunned for a moment before he nodded and smiled. Use your brain more so that you won't be laughed at, Wang Changyuan said. After going through so many life and death situations together, coupled with the fact that Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the White-eyed Wolf were all very easygoing and easy to get along with, Wang Changyuan was no longer as reserved as before. Are you looking for a beating? The White-eyed Wolf stared at him. Wang Changyuan chuckled and explained, the Yun family's weight in the southern continent can be said to be very important. It's not an exaggeration to say that the Yun family can change the situation of the southern continent with just a word. So powerful? Even more powerful than the deity's hall? The White-eyed Wolf was shocked. Not as powerful as the deity's hall, but the deity's hall is also related to the Yun family. One of the old ancestors of the Yun family is the Vice Hall Master of the deity's hall. You should have seen him during the exchange on Sky Cloud Island, but maybe your attention was on us at that time, and you didn't pay attention to them. Wang Changyuan said. Vice Hall Master? The White-eyed Wolf, Qin Feiyang, and the madman looked at each other. That's really powerful. However, as Wang Changyuan said, because of the Sword Emperor, their attention was on the Blood Hall and they didn't pay much attention to the Deity's Hall and Sky Hall. Therefore, they didn't have any impression of the big shots and core disciples of these two forces. What? You actually participated in the exchange on Sky Cloud Island back then? This time, it was the purple-clothed young man and the other four's turn to be shocked. Yes. Wang Changyuan nodded. Then you must have a great background, but why don't we have any impression of you? Who are you? The black-clothed young man looked at Qin Feiyang and the others suspiciously. Now that he took a closer look, he realized that Qin Feiyang and the madman seemed somewhat familiar. Don't worry about who we are. What embarrassing thing did this young master of yours do with Zhang Chuan and Lu Mei? Qin Feiyang said. It's like this. Back then, my clan's young master, Zhang Chuan, and Lu Mei participated in the examination together and entered the sacred palace. Due to the fact that they helped each other and possessed decent personalities, and my clan's young master was open-minded and fond of making friends, they slowly established a deep friendship with one another. Old Black said, Their personalities are not bad? The White-eyed Wolf was stunned. Yes. Blackie nodded. The purple-clothed youth clenched his fists and looked at Blackie. Let me say it. All right. Old Hay paused for a moment, then nodded and stepped aside. The purple-clothed youth looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, When I first started to associate with them, their personalities did seem decent. I also treated them wholeheartedly and treated them as true friends. I even took good care of them in the sacred palace. Later, speaking of this, the purple-clothed youth clenched his fists again. His fingernails dug into his flesh, and blood dripped down from the gaps between his fingers. Qin Feiyang and the others did not disturb him and waited quietly. Later, one day, Zhang Chuan suddenly came to me and said that I was a blockhead. I asked him why he said that. He said, Can't you tell? Lu Mei has always liked you in secret? At that time, I was really surprised because I always felt that Lu Mei treated me like a brother. Then I observed in secret, and slowly I realized that it was true. Later, you should also be able to imagine that Lu Mei was not bad-looking and had a decent personality. I wanted to try dating her. In the end, I really fell in love with her. The purple-clothed youth sighed. Isn't that a good thing? White-eyed wolf said, bullshit. This is a trap. Lu Mei and Zhang Chuan have known each other for a long time, and the two of them are childhood sweethearts. During the assessment, they deliberately pretended that it was their first time meeting each other, and then kept acting in front of me, hoping to benefit from me. The purple-clothed youth roared. This, Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other. This was too melodramatic. At first, I didn't know. I thought Lu Mei really liked me. Divine weapons, divine techniques, resources, I gave her anything, including Zhang Chuan. If it wasn't for me, would the two of them have become core disciples of the sanctuary? If it wasn't for me, would the two of them have the cultivation they have today? In fact, I even planned to bring Lu Mei to meet my parents to talk about marriage. But just as I excitedly went to find Lu Mei and prepared to give her a surprise, something unexpected happened. I saw the two of them hugging each other and whispering sweet nothings to each other. They even called me a fool, an idiot, so easy to use. The most hateful thing was, Zhang Chuan actually said that if I wanted to marry Lu Mei, he should really let Lu Mei marry me. He said that as long as she married me, Lu Mei would be able to enter the Yun family. At that time, she would be able to obtain even more benefits. The purple-clothed youth roared, almost going mad with hatred. Is that so? Don't tell me you're so hysterical. I have to admit that you're really lucky. Otherwise, when the two of you get married, you might have to raise someone else's child. The madman looked at the purple-clothed youth mockingly. Can you shut up? When the purple-clothed youth heard this, his eyes instantly turned red as he glared at the madman. It's the truth. The madman chuckled. The purple-clothed youth snorted and continued. At that time, I was about to go crazy. I treated them so well, but they had been secretly plotting against me, using me. I was so angry that I accidentally exposed my whereabouts. When the two of them found me, they were dumbfounded. But because I was in the temple at that time, and because of my identity, they didn't dare to attack me. They also knew that I definitely wouldn't let them go. So they ran away. My cultivation wasn't as high as theirs, and Old Hay and the others weren't there, so I couldn't stop them. Also, I'm a person who cares about my face and is afraid of being laughed at. So I didn't dare to cause too much of a commotion and let Old Hay and the others secretly investigate. Just this morning, Old Hay finally found out that the two of them were hiding in the Een Demon Land. So I brought Old Hay and the others here. I don't need to say what happened next. You should be able to guess. The purple-clothed youth sighed. After the white-eyed wolf heard this, he looked at Qin Feiyong, the madman, the weapon spirit, and Pei Tianhong and asked, were we used by the two of them? What do you think? The weapon spirit was speechless. They're courting death. The white-eyed wolf's eyes were filled with killing intent. He looked in the direction that the two of them had escaped, but they had already disappeared. Actually, with Old Hay and the others' strength, it's really easy for them to kill the two of them. It's all my fault. I was blind back then and gave them the supreme level God artifact and God technique. Otherwise, they would be dead before they even met you. The purple-clothed youth was extremely vexed. All right, it's our fault. The madman smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the situation to turn out like this. You guys didn't know, and were confused by their pitiful appearance. Also, I was in the wrong before, so I can't blame you guys. The purple-clothed youth sighed. Madman said, you don't say. You really did look like an arrogant and despotic playboy. Is that called arrogant? I was angry. The purple-clothed youth roared. Okay. You're the victim, so whatever you say is right. The madman waved his hand. Humph. The purple-clothed youth snorted and said, now that you guys know, shouldn't you take responsibility for your actions? After all, they escaped because of you guys. Are you going to blame it on us? The madman smiled helplessly and looked at Pei Tianhong. Old Pei, Old Wang, go and look for them. All right. The two nodded. Pei Tianhong activated momentary time and disappeared without a trace with Wang Changyuan. This is, Old Hei's pupils shrank. What? The purple-clothed youth looked at him suspiciously. Old Hay transmitted his voice. Young master, This is the supreme profound of the time law, split time. What? Split time? The purple-clothed youth was shocked. There's no mistake, it's split time. In the 4 continents of the sky cloud realm, the number of people who can control split time can be counted with one hand. Moreover, they actually participated in the exchange conference held in the sky cloud realm. Their background is definitely not small. Old Hay was secretly vigilant. The purple-clothed youth looked at Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, the madman, and the artifact spirit. Suddenly, a trace of suspicion appeared in his eyes. Old Hay, don't you feel that they are a bit familiar? And Old Hay and the others responded. The madman looked at the purple-clothed youth and also transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. I suddenly realized that this person's eyes, I seem to have seen it somewhere before. You also have this feeling? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It seems familiar. The madman secretly said. Strange. Qin Feiyang touched his chin and looked at the purple-clothed youth suspiciously. Both sides sized each other up and fell into silence for a moment. Not long after, Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan returned. However, they didn't see Zhang Chuan and Lu Mei. Where are they? The madman asked. We chased them out of the Een Demon Land and didn't see any trace of them. I guess after leaving the Een Demon Land, they activated the teleportation altar and left. Pei Tianhong said. They ran quite fast. The white-eyed wolf muttered. We don't need to care about this matter. The dragons are still waiting for us to deal with them. The artifact spirit transmitted his voice. No. Pei Tianhong thought about it and secretly said, I personally feel that we can help this person. Why? The artifact spirit was suspicious. Because of the Yun family. This person's strength isn't much, but the Yun family's strength can't be ignored. If we can be on good terms with them, it will definitely be helpful for us in the future. Besides, the dragons are such a huge monster. It will be troublesome for us to deal with them alone. Not to mention us, even if the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Palace join forces with us, we might not be able to fight the dragons. So if there's a chance, we might as well pull the Yun family over. Pei Tianhong transmitted his voice. You're not being nice. You actually want to drag others down with you. It would be strange if the Yun family doesn't hate you to death. The artifact spirit looked down on him. Not being nice? Pei Tianhong was slightly stunned and secretly raged. Aren't I thinking for the young master? You also know how strong the dragons are. If we don't have more allies, what can we use to fight them? Moreover, I know a secret that no one knows. It's about the temple and the Yun family. What secret? The artifact spirit and Qin Feiyang looked at Pei Tianhong curiously. Chapter 34:14. Do you know the number 1 family in the southern continent? Pei Tianhong asked secretly. Nonsense, we haven't even been to the southern continent. How would we know about the number 1 family? Madman rolled his eyes at him. Pei Tianhong smiled and explained. The number 1 family in the southern continent is the He family, and the ancestor of the He family also has another identity, which is the temple master of the temple. He family? Temple master of the temple? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. The white-eyed wolf asked suspiciously, this kind of thing should be known by everyone in the southern continent. What kind of secret can it be? The ancestor of the He family is the temple master of the temple, and the ancestor of the Yun family is the deputy temple master of the temple. These things are indeed known by everyone, but no one knows the origin of these 2 families. Pei Tianhong transmitted. What origin? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. Pei Tianhong secretly said, this matter has to start from the beginning of the temple. So long ago? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Looking at the purple-clothed youth and the others, he transmitted his voice. Then let's leave the Een Demon Land first. Find a place to sit down, and then you can slowly tell us. All right. Pei Tianhong nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at the purple-clothed youth and said, Brother, may I know your name? The purple-clothed youth was stunned and replied, Yunzi Feng. Yunzi Feng. Qin Feiyang murmured and smiled. Today's matter is indeed our fault, but we didn't do it on purpose. Please forgive us, Brother Yun. Yunzi Feng and Old Black looked at each other. This group of people didn't look like unreasonable people. Since the other party had taken the initiative to apologize, there was no need for them to not let it go. The most important thing was, this group of people exuded a mysterious aura, and they felt that they were not people to be trifled with. Since the misunderstanding had been resolved, it was better to have less trouble. It's fine. It's all a misunderstanding. Yun Zifeng waved his hand and said, but you can't just leave like this. You should at least take some responsibility. After all, it was because of you that they escaped. Responsibility is a must. However, we are not familiar with the southern continent. It will be difficult to find them. Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Zifeng awkwardly, then suddenly smiled and said, how about this? I'll compensate you for your losses. Compensation? Yun Zifeng was slightly taken aback and said speechlessly, I say, big brother, do I look like someone who lacks money? Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He forced a smile and said, as a descendant of the Yun family, I can get whatever I want. I really don't lack anything. I have offended you. Please forgive me. What do you mean you can get whatever you want? It's not as exaggerated as you say. Some things have to be fought for with your own efforts. Others won't give it to you. Yun Zifeng waved his hand and pondered for a moment before he said, I see that all of you are sensible people, so I won't make things difficult for you. After all, it's just as you said. We're not familiar with this place, so finding two people is no different from finding a needle in a haystack. Thank you for your understanding, brother. Qin Feiyang smiled. His impression of this person was not bad. Although he had a powerful family background, he did not show that kind of arrogant and overbearing attitude. However, I'm not such a magnanimous person. I'm not afraid of offending you. After such a thing happened, I really can't let it go just like that. Yun Zifeng said again. Understandable. I understand what you mean. I owe you for this matter. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely pay you back. Qin Feiyang smiled. You said it. I didn't force you. Yun Zifeng said. I said it. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. Yun Zifeng nodded. Then we'll meet again. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled, then nodded to Pei Tianhong. Pei Tianhong waved his hand and swept up the few people, then turned around and left at lightning speed. After watching Qin Feiyang and the others leave, Old Black shook his head and said, the more I look at this group, the more I feel that they're not simple. I think so too. Yun Zifeng nodded, then frowned and said, but those two young men look really familiar. Do you want me to investigate? Old Black asked. There's no hurry. Let's find that pair first. Even if we have to turn the southern continent upside down, we have to find them. Yun Zifeng clenched his fists. Yes. Old Black nodded respectfully. Yun Zifeng looked at Old Black, whose body had been destroyed, and blamed himself. It's all my fault. Don't worry about it. Go back to your family and heal your body. It's okay. Even if I'm only left with my divine soul, I can still do it. Old Black hurriedly said. Shut up. I told you to go back, so go back. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Yun Zifeng said angrily. Even if Yun Zifeng was angry, Blackie didn't have the slightest fear. He still wanted to argue for what was right. But when he saw the four large men giving him meaningful glances, he immediately sighed and respectfully said, all right, I'll immediately return to recover. That's right. Yun Zifeng's expression eased a lot, and he said with a smile, you know me, I'm not scolding you. I'm worried about you. You have elders and children to take care of. With your current state, if something happens, how can I explain it to your family? Thank you for your concern, young master. Old Black was touched. Pretentious. Yun Zifeng rolled his eyes at Old Black and took out 4 yuan high divine pills. There were 8 dragon-shaped pill chi. The quality was better than Dan Wang's size. Here you go. Yun Zifeng threw it to the 4 middle-aged men. Thank you, young master. The 4 of them caught the pills, thanked him, and threw them into their mouths. Let's go. Yun Zifeng chuckled and led the 5 people flying outside. Back to Qin Feiyang's group. At this moment, they had already walked out of the Yin Demon Land. In front of them were endless mountains and rivers. The morning sun shone on the earth, making all living things grow. Towering ancient trees swayed in the wind, exuding exuberant vitality. It's more comfortable to stay outside. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Qin Feiyang and the others lowered their heads and then turned to look at the Demon Land. Although it had only been a few months, they had experienced too much, and they hadn't rested for a moment. They had been running and fighting. Not to mention Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan who had been fighting, even Qin Feiyang, Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, and Artifact Spirit felt a little tired. However, the gains were also great. First was Frenzy. Not only had his divine power evolved, he had the ability to transform, and he had also inherited the laws of space and time. Next was Qin Feiyang. He had inherited the laws of destruction, and it also contained the supreme profound. Compared to these, what Qin Feiyang was most satisfied with was Pei Tianhong's change. After a few months of life and death, Pei Tianhong had completely integrated into this small team. For example, Wang Changyuan. In the past, Pei Tianhong had a lot of complaints about Wang Changyuan because Wang Changyuan betrayed him. Even though he had been working by Qin Feiyang's side, he still couldn't help but feel disgusted and hateful. But now, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Pei Tianhong's attitude towards Wang Changyuan had obviously changed. Even if they weren't brothers, at least they could be called friends. Although we have gained a lot, there are also regrets. This regret is the fire dragon. I really don't understand. Why is this bastard so lucky every time? The white-eyed wolf was furious. Every time he was so close to killing the fire dragon, but at the crucial moment, he could always escape. Could this be the old saying, a good person doesn't live long, but a disaster lasts for 1,000 years? Don't worry. We will meet again sooner or later anyway. I want to see if the heavens will always take care of him like this. Frenzy smiled coldly. Damn heavens. The white-eyed wolf raised his head and looked at the sky, his eyes full of contempt. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled. Shouldn't your biggest regret be that you didn't get the laws of destruction from the golden-clothed youth? The white-eyed wolf was stunned for a moment before disdain appeared in his eyes. What? You changed your mind and don't want it? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Of course, you have already obtained the inheritance of the supreme laws of destruction. Why would I want to snatch his fifth law of destruction? A person must have a goal. No matter what, this big brother can't be worse than you. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but reveal a trace of disdain in his eyes. Pei Tianhong coughed and smiled. Let's go. Let's go to the Black Tortoise world first. I haven't seen everyone for so long. I miss you guys. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at Pei Tianhong. Did I say something wrong? Pei Tianhong was suspicious. You actually miss others? That's really strange. Frenzy chuckled. Little Frenzy, you don't understand. What others miss is the door of potential. The white-eyed wolf had a mocking expression. So that's how it is. Look at my brain. It's too slow. Sorry, don't laugh at me. Frenzy slapped his forehead and looked at everyone with his hands clasped. Looking at the man and wolf singing the same tune, Pei Tianhong's expression was awkward. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked deeply at the Demon Land and then waved his hand. The group immediately appeared above the Devil Land. This is the Black Tortoise world? Looking at this unfamiliar world, Ghost Blade was shocked. Spirit Vein, Crystal Vein, Herbs, this was simply a god treasury in front of them. We're finally home. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Frenzy and the white-eyed wolf also smiled. Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong looked at each other and scanned the Devil Land. Now that they were back in the Black Tortoise world, they actually felt a sense of belonging. This was where their home belonged. No matter what happened outside, no matter how much they experienced, when they returned here, their hearts felt more at ease. Hey, is no one coming to welcome us? The white-eyed wolf roared in dissatisfaction. So, not long after he finished speaking, 3 figures flew out from 3 different courtyards, flew into the sky, and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. It was the Mermaid Princess, Shui Xiaoxian, and Fire Lotus. The 3 women's faces were filled with joy. You're the only one with a loud voice? The Mermaid Princess glared at the white-eyed wolf and walked in front of Qin Feiyang. Her eyes seemed to be a little wet. I'm sorry for making you worry for so long. Qin Feiyong held his lover's hand with an apologetic expression. No, I'm just happy to see you guys back. The mermaid princess shook her head. Zhuo Xiaoxian didn't hold back and directly went into Frenzy's arms to seek comfort. So many people are watching. What are you doing? It's embarrassing. Frenzy glanced at Wang Changyuan and the others with an uncomfortable expression. So what if they're watching? It's not like I haven't seen it before. Zhuo Xiaoxian's face was full of indifference. She hugged Frenzy's waist tightly with both hands, which made Frenzy feel helpless. Chapter 34:15. Qin Feiyong hugged the mermaid princess' waist and looked down. The ancient castle had returned to its original place, and the main body that was damaged in the battle had been repaired. After all, one day outside was 1,000 years in the Black Tortoise world. After a few months, there were already several 100,000 people in the Black Tortoise world. Where's the ruler weapon from the Demon Hall? Qin Feiyong asked. It's in my Qi Si. Fire Lotus smiled. Why did it go to your Qi Si? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Fire Lotus smiled. Because I'm Elder Hua's disciple, so it trusts me more. So it's like that. Qin Feiyong laughed involuntarily. It turned out that this sovereign divine weapon was worried that everyone would steal it away. Then, he waved his hand and the horsetail whisk and ghost blade's main bodies appeared. He smiled and said, You two also go to the land of origin and repair your main bodies. Okay. The artifact spirit chuckled and flew into the sky with the horsetail whisk, disappearing without a trace. Gue Rin yearned for the land of origin. He had risked his life with Qin Feiyong for so long just for this moment. Qin Feiyong turned to Pei Tianhong and smiled. Old Pei, you go to the ancient castle and find Dan Wangkai. Thank you, young master. Pei Tianhong took a deep breath and flew toward the ancient castle with excitement and anticipation. Mermaid Princess crawled out of Qin Feiyong's embrace and looked at Pei Tianhong's back. She asked, Are you going to help him open the door of potential? And Qin Feiyong nodded. Can we trust him? Mermaid Princess asked. Qin Feiyong paused and asked suspiciously, You don't know what happened in the land of demons? We don't know. Before you entered the land of demons, Big Sister Fire Lotus tried to contact you and couldn't see what was happening outside. Mermaid Princess shook her head. So you're saying that the laws and restrictions of the Enma land are even scarier than the Nether King's Hell? Qin Feiyong frowned. When they were in the Underworld King's Hell, although they couldn't enter the Black Tortoise world, the people in the Black Tortoise world could see the situation outside. What exactly did you experience in the Devil land? Zhuo Xiaoxian also came out from Madman's arms, curiously looking at Qin Feiyong and the others. Let's go to the tea garden first. Let's sit down and talk. Qin Feiyong smiled. In the tea garden, the tea trees swayed in the wind like young girls, full of vitality. Every tea leaf was sparkling and translucent like jade. Walking into this place was like walking into a sea of tea, making one feel happy. Qin Feiyong and the others sat around the table. The mermaid princess sat next to Qin Feiyong and made tea. The faint fragrance of the tea and the peaceful atmosphere made them relax, and their fatigue gradually dissipated. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Wang Changyuan, you say it. Okay. Wang Changyuan nodded and described what happened in the Devil land in detail. Qin Feiyong drank his tea with a calm expression. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf drank the Black Tortoise Divine Brew, and their expressions were also calm. After all, it was something they had experienced personally. Hearing it now, it wasn't surprising. However, the Mermaid Princess, Zhuo Xiaoxian, and Fire Lotus couldn't help but tremble in fear. They didn't expect Qin Feiyong and the others to experience so many dangers in just a few months outside. No wonder Qin Feiyong helped Pei Tianhong open the door to potential. This was a test of life and death. He was absolutely trustworthy. So, we're facing the risk of being hunted down by the dragons again? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyong. Yes, their hunting plan has already begun. When we return to the eastern continent, fierce battles will be inevitable. Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. Couldn't they let him rest for a while? He had just finished off the blood hall, and now he had to face the dragons that were countless times stronger than the Blood Hall. Sigh. I didn't expect the Sky Cloud realm to have dragons. Mermaid Princess sighed. What are you afraid of? The dragons of the ancient realm can't beat us, and the dragons here can't beat us either. We'll be the victors in the end. Madman smiled proudly. Can you not be so arrogant? Can the dragons of the ancient realm compare to the dragons of the ancient realm? Shui Xiaoxian glared at him with dissatisfaction. Although she hadn't been to the ancient realm, she had been in the Black Tortoise realm for so many years and knew about the dragons of the ancient realm. Is there a difference? Madman drank a mouthful of the Black Tortoise divine brew, and his face was full of disdain. Shui Xiaoxian expressed her helplessness. Qin Feiyang glanced at Shui Xiaoxian, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. This little girl's strength had improved by quite a bit. It seemed that she hadn't slacked off in the Black Tortoise realm for the past few months. Qin Feiyang looked at Fire Lotus and Mermaid Princess, and his expression was slightly stunned. He hadn't noticed before, but the aura of these two girls had already reached the half-step ruler realm. There's no hurry to deal with the dragons. Those princesses and princes want to end the battle quickly, but we won't let them have their way. We'll play with them slowly. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. That's easy to say. Do you have the ability to end the battle quickly with them? White-Eyed Wolf said with disdain. Can you not talk about it? Qin Feiyang's expression froze, and he glared fiercely at White-Eyed Wolf. Haven't you heard of the saying, life is hard, don't talk about it? Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly, looked at the three girls, and said with a smile, let's not talk about the dragons for now. Let's talk about the three of you first. I haven't seen you for a few months, and your strength has increased. Of course, it's not just us. Apart from little Jie and the other kids, basically all of them have reached the half-step ruler realm. Mermaid Princess raised her head, revealing a rare bit of pride. Really? Don't make me happy, Qin Feiyang said. Why would I lie to you about this? Xia Yuan, Big Sister Ru Shuang, and even Mu Tianyang, Dong Jingyang, the demon ancestor, and Mu Qing have all reached the half-step ruler realm. The few of them might not even be half-step ruler realm. Mermaid Princess said. Not bad. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. The overall strength of the Black Tortoise realm had increased by another level. Wait, you're saying that Mu Tianyang and the others might not even be half-step ruler realm? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. In any case, every time I see them, I can't see through their cultivation. Mermaid Princess nodded. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, then asked, what kind of laws have they comprehended? I don't know. Mermaid Princess shook her head. Haven't you always been in the Black Tortoise realm? How can you not know? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Then I can't keep an eye on them every day, right? Besides, ever since they broke through to the peak imperishable realm, they've been training outside and comprehending laws. It's rare to see them return. Mermaid Princess said. All of them are quite carefree. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. He was risking his life outside, but these guys were enjoying their lives in the Black Tortoise realm. No, he had to find a chance to drag them down with him. In his heart, Qin Feiyang began to calculate silently. Mu Tianyang, Dong Jingyang, Demon Ancestor, and Mu Qing were all people with heaven-defying battle souls, and each of them had extraordinary talent. The most important thing was, they had opened the door of potential early on, and they were cultivating in the Black Tortoise realm every day. Their cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Of course, to be honest, even Qin Feiyang and Madman's current strength was nothing in the Sky Cloud realm. After all, only by reaching the peak Dominator realm would they have the right to speak. But, in terms of brains and methods, Mu Tianyang and the others were all old foxes. After all, after fighting for so many years, Qin Feiyang was still clear about the details of these people. If he let them help, then he should have more confidence in dealing with the dragons. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Changyuan and smiled. Old Wang, I'll give you a mission. Please tell me. Wang Changyuan stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang respectfully. Go to the central continent and tell the secret guards about the dragon situation. Tell them to work harder and be ready to fight at any time. Qin Feiyong said, "Yes." Wang Changyuan nodded, turned around, and flew away like lightning. Qin Feiyong was silent for a while, then looked at Madman and White-Eyed Wolf and sighed. "We have to tell Xia Yuan and the others about this. Let them be mentally prepared, and also give them some pressure." And Madman and White-Eyed Wolf both agreed. "All right. Senior brother Madman and I are going to comprehend the inheritance. White-Eyed Wolf, I'll leave this matter to you." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Can you not mention the inheritance?" The ingrate angrily glared at Qin Feiyong. Then, he picked up the wine jug and left with a face full of displeasure. "What's wrong with it?" Mermaid Princess and the others looked at White-Eyed Wolf's back suspiciously. "What else can it be? It's just unhappy that senior brother and I got the inheritance." Qin Feiyong was helpless. "Is that so?" The three shook their heads and laughed. Qin Feiyong looked at Fire Lotus and asked, "Have you finished organizing the resources in the Blood Hall?" "It's already been organized. I asked Pai Lupi and the others to take the Crystal Vein and Soul Vein to the east, south, north, and central continent. After all, the Devil's Land is only so big. It's already full. There are also many divine weapons and divine arts. Except for the few supreme divine arts and divine weapons, I've distributed them to everyone. Now in our Devil's Land, whether it's humans or beasts, basically all of us have a legendary divine weapon, a legendary divine art, and a support divine art." Fire Lotus explained. "Very good." Qin Feiyong nodded. His previous wish was to equip everyone with a divine weapon and divine art. Now, he finally did it. Although they were only at the legendary level, it didn't matter. This was because all heaven-defying divine artifacts could slowly grow. As for divine arts, they didn't have much meaning because battles in the sovereign realm basically used the profound laws. Of course, it wasn't that they were useless. If they really insisted on pursuing divine arts, one or two would be enough. They could slowly improve it in the future and fuse the power of the laws. As for the remaining low-level divine arts and divine weapons, I asked Pai Lupi and Theta Wong to send them to the divine treasures in the various forbidden areas. Consider it a blessing for the Black Tortoise world. Fire Lotus smiled. "When you do things, it's really reassuring." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Fire Lotus smiled and said, "However, I still have the supreme divine arts and divine weapons in my hands, waiting for you to deal with them." "How many do you have?" Qin Feiyong asked. "The third chapter is a little late." Chapter 34:16. Fire Lotus said, 8 divine artifacts, 12 divine arts, and 4 of them are supreme, heaven-defying support divine arts. That's all there is in such a big blood hall? Qin Feiyong was stunned. That's right. This also proves that supreme-level divine artifacts and divine techniques are indeed very rare. Fire Lotus nodded. "That's all." Qin Feiyong pondered for a while, then looked at Fire Lotus and said, "Senior brother, White-Eyed Wolf and I don't need these things. Let's just give them to Wang Ming and Yang Li." "Okay." Fire Lotus smiled. "Okay, I'll trouble you to take care of them. I'll go back and comprehend the law of destruction that I inherited." Qin Feiyong smiled at Fire Lotus, then pulled the mermaid princess home. "Can you be more honest with your hands?" Blushing, the mermaid princess said angrily, because Qin Feiyong's hands were very naughty. "We've been apart for a few months, and I miss you a lot. You have to help me relieve my lovesickness, right?" Qin Feiyong chuckled. "You're so naughty." Mermaid princess rolled her eyes at him. Pondering for a while, she said, "Feiyong, Sister Fire Lotus isn't young anymore." "Huh." Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. He looked at the mermaid princess suspiciously. "Why are you suddenly talking about this? You're such a blockhead." Mermaid princess glared at Qin Feiyong angrily and said in a low voice, "Look at Sister Fire Lotus. She's been busy with you all these years and hasn't thought about her marriage." "Oh, you mean that?" Realization dawned on Qin Feiyong, and he chuckled. "You really can't blame me for this. I've thought about it, but after thinking about it, I realized that this girl is really too outstanding. I don't think anyone is worthy of her. We can't let her die alone. Can we? The mermaid princess said. That definitely won't happen. Don't worry, I'll take this matter to heart. Besides, Fire Lotus is my sister, so I have to keep an eye on her. His strength and talent can be mediocre, but his character must be top-notch. Qin Feiyang smiled. According to the standards in your heart, I don't think anyone in this world is qualified. The mermaid princess was speechless. So, it all depends on fate. We can't be too deliberate. Otherwise, Fire Lotus will think that we're going to force her to leave. Qin Feiyang smiled. You have a lot of excuses. The mermaid princess was helpless. While they were talking, the two of them had already reached the courtyard. Qin Feiyang moved closer to the mermaid princess's ear and chuckled. Let's take our time with Fire Lotus. First, help me relieve the pain of lovesickness. After saying that, he carried the mermaid princess and ran towards the pavilion as if he was flying. Fuck, can't you be more reserved? On the other side, Lunatic followed Zhuo Shaoxian back to the house. Seeing Qin Feiyang's behavior, he immediately rolled his eyes. Jealous? Zhuo Shaoxian giggled. Jealous? Lunatic's face was full of disdain. He hugged Zhuo Shaoxian and said proudly, It's not like I don't have one. Why should I be jealous of him? Zhuo Shaoxian's cheeks were red. She lowered her head and twisted her fingers like a little girl, murmuring, Then, should we? What? Lunatic looked at her suspiciously. That is, Zhuo Shaoxian's cheeks were almost dripping with water. Say it. Lunatic urged. Zhuo Shaoxian's face darkened. She said angrily, Why are you so stupid? Just like Qindage and sister-in-law, we're going to make a baby. She then realized that she was being too straightforward. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Make a baby? Lunatic was startled. He lifted Zhuo Shaoxian and said with a cunning smile, So you want to make a baby with me that much? Fine. I'll take you on the spot. We'll have a shotgun marriage in the future. Saying this, he rushed into the attic and slammed the door shut. As for whether he would take her on the spot, no one knew. Time passed quickly. 1,000 years later, a terrifying aura burst out from Lunatic's courtyard, startling many people. Following it, space-time storms appeared in the sky above, sweeping across the place. That looks like the rules of space-time. Long Tianyu, Wang Xiaojie, Qin Qin, and Zhuo Xiaoqing ran out of the courtyard and looked at Lunatic's courtyard with their mouths agape. Zhuo Xiaoqing didn't have much contact with others in the Black Tortoise world, but he spent every day with Wang Xiaojie and the other two. Their relationship was very good now, because in this demonic land, only Wang Xiaojie and the other two were a little younger. This is Martial Uncle Lunatic's aura. He actually comprehended the space-time laws again. This is too much. Not only did we not catch up with him, the gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Wang Xiaojie said with jealousy. Catch up with him? Come on. Qin Chun rolled his eyes. Looking at the space-time storm in the sky, his eyes were full of admiration. Soon, the space-time storm dissipated, and Lunatic's aura soared to the greater success stage. Swoosh. After the aura dissipated, a space-time rift appeared in front of Long Tianyu and the other three. The four of them were surprised. Was this the space-time portal? In the next moment, a black-robed young man walked out of the space-time rift. Who else could it be but Lunatic? Uncle is mighty. Wang Xiaojie immediately went up to flatter him. I am mighty. Do I need you to say that? Lunatic rolled his eyes at him. Wang Xiaojie was stunned and immediately muttered in his heart. Shameless, he smiled and said, Uncle, when will you explain the mysteries of the space-time laws to us? Didn't Qin Batian and Chu Yun talk about it before? What were you all doing at that time? Didn't you listen carefully? Lunatic said, Yes, yes, yes. Wang Xiaojie quickly nodded and said, But this thing, after hearing it once or twice, I don't think it's very useful. That's because your talent isn't good enough, and you can't understand it. I really don't understand. Why does old Qin like you as a disciple? Lunatic shook his head. Uncle, just say it. Can you not attack me personally? Wang Xiaojie looked at him bitterly. I'm too lazy to attack you. Lunatic smiled in disdain. Wang Xiaojie smiled and said, Uncle, don't be like this. Look, in our generation, Qin Qin, Long Tianyu, and I are all pretty good. Brother-in-law, and me, Zhuo Xiaoqing quickly raised his hand, afraid that he would be forgotten. The current him, compared to the past, not only was he much more mature, his cultivation had also improved greatly. The most important thing was that he was no longer as timid as before. Brother-in-law? Lunatic was stunned and looked at Zhuo Xiaoqing. The word brother-in-law sounded pretty good. Then he glanced at Wang Xiaojia and the other two and said indifferently, "All right, since I'm free now, I'll tell you guys." "Thank you, uncle." Wang Xiaojia chuckled. "An uncle is an uncle." "Old uncle? Am I that old?" Lunatic glared at him, then glanced at Qin Feiyang's courtyard and asked, "Your master hasn't come out of seclusion yet?" "Not yet." Wang Xiaojia shook his head. Madman frowned. Could it be that the inheritance of a supreme profound meaning needed even more time? In the blink of an eye, another 2,000 years passed. Boom. On this day, another terrifying aura erupted. However, it was different from the space-time law. This aura contained a destructive power that could destroy the world. Lunatic was the first to run out of his room. Looking at Qin Feiyang's courtyard, his eyes were filled with envy. He could tell the strength of this destruction energy at once. It was much stronger than the destruction energy he had comprehended when he comprehended the fifth profound. Clearly, Qin Feiyang had already grasped the supreme profound of the law of destruction. The white-eyed wolf also ran over. Looking at the destructive power surging in the sky, he roared, "Little Qin Zi, Big Brother wants to fight you one-on-one." "Sure. I would also like to see how powerful a person who has mastered 3 profound truths is." As his voice fell, Qin Feiyang stepped into the air above the courtyard. Like Lunatic, his aura instantly soared to the greater mastery level. He broke through? The white-eyed wolf's expression stiffened. He quickly waved his paw and laughed. "Forget it. There's no need to fight between brothers." What a joke. He had already broken through to the greater mastery level. How could he fight? If Qin Feiyang was still at the lesser mastery level, he was confident that even if Qin Feiyang had grasped the supreme profound of the law of destruction, he would still be able to suppress Qin Feiyang. After all, as Qin Feiyang had said, he had grasped the 3 supreme profound. But now, Qin Feiyang had broken through, while the white-eyed wolf was still at the lesser mastery level. With a difference of 1 minor realm, even if he had the 3 supreme profound, he still wouldn't be able to fight against Qin Feiyang. This was because Qin Feiyang had also grasped the supreme profound of the supreme law. Although the number was a bit lower, his cultivation could suppress the white-eyed wolf. "You think I won't fight just because you said so?" The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted. After this wolf cub had obtained the supreme profound of the 3 supreme laws, it had been extremely arrogant. It was time to let it have a taste of being beaten. Boom. But just as Qin Feiyang was about to make a move, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out and rolled over from the distance. Qin Feiyang, Madman, and the white-eyed wolf were startled. They hurriedly raised their heads and looked over, their eyes filled with surprise. Madman landed beside Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and said with a frown, "This aura doesn't seem to be from the Devil's Land?" "Definitely not." Qin Feiyang shook his head. The 2 men and 1 wolf carefully analyzed for a while and exclaimed in unison, "Middle ground." How could such a terrifying aura erupt from middle ground? "Let's go and take a look," the white-eyed wolf urged. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought the man and wolf to the sky above middle ground. Immediately, they saw a shocking scene. The entire sky above middle ground had turned into a sea of fire. The scorching heat shrouded the world and the entire place was like a huge furnace. "Greetings, young master." Accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air, the 9 commanders rushed in front of Qin Feiyang and bowed respectfully. They were the 9 deacons in the past. Qin Feiyang nodded and lowered his head to look down. He saw that there were several thousand people standing in the mountains and rivers below. It was the 6,000 shadow guards, Pei Dason, and the others. The 6,000 shadow guards and Pei Dason looked at Qin Feiyang with awe in their eyes, especially Pei Dason and the others. Since coming to the Black Tortoise world, This was the first time Qin Feiyang descended to middle ground. The previous encounter in the soul-sealing valley was still vivid in their minds. So when they saw Qin Feiyang again, they instinctively felt fear. Chapter 34:17. Glancing at everyone, Qin Feiyang raised his head to look at the sky. Waves of fire were rolling, covering the sky and earth. Not only the sky, but even the sky and the ground were dyed red. This is the power of law. Madman frowned and glanced at the sea of fire. Suddenly, his pupils shrank as he saw a figure in the middle of the sea of fire. It was Wang Changyuan. So that's how it is. Madman revealed a look of understanding and a smile appeared on his face. Obviously, Wang Changyuan comprehended the supreme mystery of fire law. Madman glanced at the 9 commanders and joked, "Are you envious?" The 9 commanders looked at Wang Changyuan and couldn't help but nod. Of course, they were envious. In the past, although Wang Changyuan was the confidant of the Blood Hall Master, in terms of power and status, he wasn't as good as them. However, after following Wang Changyuan had not only become their immediate superior, but he had also comprehended the law of fire's supreme profundity. Adding the law of lightning's supreme profundity, Wang Changyuan now possessed 2 great supreme profundities. Although they weren't the strongest laws, these 2 supreme mysteries were already powerful enough in the sky cloud realm. And this was the benefit of opening all the gates of potential. If Wang Changyuan hadn't opened all the gates of potential, how could he comprehend the supreme mystery of fire law so quickly? They were more and more eager to open the gates of potential. A moment later, the sea of fire gradually dissipated, revealing Wang Changyuan's figure. When he saw Qin Feiyang coming, he immediately flew in front of Qin Feiyang and bowed. "Greetings, young master." "Congratulations." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "It's all thanks to you, young master." Wang Changyuan quickly waved his hand. "Don't say that. If your talent isn't good, or you don't work hard, even if I help you open all the gates of potential, it's useless." Qin Feiyang smiled. Wang Changyuan scratched his head, looking charmingly naive. "However, you can't be arrogant and complacent. You have to continue to work hard. It's best if you can comprehend an ultimate law. This way, you will truly have the capital to fight against the dragons." Qin Feiyang reminded. "I will." Wang Changyuan nodded solemnly. From these words, it was not difficult to see that the young lord had high expectations of him, so he must not disappoint the young lord. Qin Feiyang smiled and glanced at the crowd below. He asked, "Where's old Pei?" "I don't know. Isn't he activating the gate of potential in the castle?" Wang Changyuan shook his head. "It's been 3,000 years. He should have opened it long ago." Qin Feiyang said. "Then he didn't look for you?" Wang Changyuan asked. "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and was about to release his perception to search for Pei Tianhong. Boom. But at this moment, another terrifying aura suddenly rolled over from afar. Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf were all shocked. This was the aura of the slaughter law. They all grasped the law of slaughter, so they were naturally quite familiar with the aura of the law of slaughter. Madman said, "It seems to be from the western region. Is it old Pei's aura? Let's go and take a look." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and prepared to bring the madman and Wang Changyuan to the western region. "Young lord, bring us along too." The 9 commanders hurriedly said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at the 9 commanders with deep meaning. Then, he brought the 9 of them and instantly descended in the sky above the western region. Below, the blood sea surged and a thick smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. Although all the blood had been consumed last time, after hundreds of thousands of years of accumulation in the Black Tortoise world, there was still a lot of blood left. At this moment, the entire blood sea was filled with a monstrous killing intent. An old man in blood clothes was sitting cross-legged in the sky with his eyes closed. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind. From afar, he looked like a killing god that had returned. It's indeed old Pei. The strength of the law of slaughter. Could it be that he has also comprehended the profound meaning? The madman was surprised. This strength means he has comprehended the profound meaning. Wang Changyuan was shocked. He originally thought that if he was given some time, he might have a chance to surpass Pei Tianhong. But he never imagined that after Pei Tianhong opened the door of potential, he would be able to comprehend the profound meaning of the law of slaughter so quickly. As expected, he was once the overlord of the Western region. His reputation was not undeserved. Regardless of whether it was before or after unlocking the door of potential, the gap between him and Pei Tianhong had never changed. Looking at this scene, the 9 commanders were even more envious and eager. Wang Changyuan was able to comprehend the profound meaning of the law of fire because he had opened the door of potential. Pei Tianhong was also able to comprehend the profound meaning of the law of slaughter because he had opened the door of potential. The door of potential was equivalent to breaking out of the cocoon and becoming a butterfly. Whether it was talent or potential, it would receive a huge increase. Young Lord, give us a chance to perform. Suddenly, the 9 of them looked at each other and knelt in the air, looking at Qin Feiyong with begging eyes. Qin Feiyong was stunned. We also want to open the door of potential, but we stay in Zhengzhou every day and have no chance to perform. The second commander lowered his head and looked aggrieved. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Young Lord, as long as you help us open the door of potential, we are willing to do anything. The third commander also said, That's right. Even if you ask us to die, we won't frown. The fourth commander and the others also spoke. Is that so? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. I'm not lying. The 9 commanders nodded with determination in their eyes. All right then, all of you can go to hell. Qin Feiyong said. What? When the 9 commanders heard this, their expressions suddenly froze. Was he really asking them to die? This wasn't good. Their deaths were too worthless. I don't dare. Qin Feiyong laughed. The second commander felt aggrieved. Death is lighter than a goose feather and heavier than a mountain. Young Lord, you can't let us die in vain. Haha. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but laugh, shook his head and said, You should have misunderstood the word performance. Misunderstood? The 9 of them looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. The performance I'm talking about is not deliberately showing off. If it's too deliberate, it will seem unreal and insincere. In fact, performance doesn't mean following me and blocking knives and arrows for me. It starts from every small thing. For example, you help others to solve their difficulties, teach others to cultivate and nurture the younger generation. These can all be behaviors of performance. In short, performance is a kind of attitude. You have to really integrate into this big family. Don't be selfish and accept everything with the broadest mind. Understand? Qin Feiyong asked. The 9 of them pondered for a while and nodded. Understood. Do you really understand? Qin Feiyong was a little amused. Yes. The 9 of them nodded again. He had made it so clear. If they still didn't understand, wouldn't they have lived their lives in vain? It was just that in the past, they didn't understand Qin Feiyong's thoughts. They thought that Qin Feiyong was the same as others who like to look at the surface. It was only now that they understood that Qin Feiyong didn't look at a person's surface but inside. All right. In the future, I will leave Zhengzhou to you guys to manage. I don't care about anything else. I only have one request. Don't break the harmonious atmosphere of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong said. Yes. The 9 of them nodded respectfully. Swish. At this moment, the murderous aura dissipated. Pei Tianhong took a step and landed beside Qin Feiyong. The joy in his heart was suppressed, but it could still be seen. Didn't I ask you to follow me at all times? Qin Feiyong said. When I opened the door of potential, I wanted to look for you. But seeing that you were in seclusion, I didn't disturb you. Pei Tianhong explained. I see. I thought that after you opened the door of potential, you turned hostile. Qin Feiyong laughed. I wouldn't dare. Pei Tianhong quickly waved his hand. It's just a joke. Don't take it seriously. Since you and old Wang have broken through, senior brother frenzied and I have grasped the inheritance, then let's go out for a walk. Qin Feiyong smiled. Yes. Pei Tianhong nodded. Qin Feiyong looked at the 9 commanders and smiled. Remember my words. With that, he waved his hand and sent a group of people to Zhengzhou. By the way, Little Pei, what is the relationship between the Yun family and He family that you mentioned? White-eyed Wolf looked at Pei Tianhong suspiciously. The relationship between these two families is very deep. Do you know the origin of deities Templar? Pei Tianhong asked. Nonsense if we know. Why would we ask you? Frenzied rolled his eyes at him. Pei Tianhong smiled and said, Deities Templar was created by the ancestors of the Yun family and He family. And Qin Feiyong, Frenzied, and White-eyed Wolf looked at each other. So Deities Templar was created by these two families. In other words, these two families were the owners of Deities Templar. It is said that the ancestors of the Yun family and He family grew up together. Although they weren't blood brothers, they were closer than blood brothers, just like you guys now. Pei Tianhong looked at Qin Feiyong and Frenzied and smiled. That's quite good. Qin Feiyong smiled. Yes, in a person's life, there are many bad friends, but how many close friends can there be? Pei Tianhong couldn't help but sigh, because he thought of his life. As the Blood Hall's hall master, he had a high position and knew countless people. But when he was in danger, who would come to help him? Just like Wang Chongyuan. Wang Chongyuan treated him well back then, but he still betrayed him. Don't sigh, hurry up and say it. Frenzied urged. He felt that the situation between the Yun family and He family wasn't so simple. Pei Tianhong collected his thoughts and said, Back then, the ancestors of these two families created Deities Templar. After unremitting efforts, they finally overthrew all the forces in the southern continent and unified the southern continent, becoming the overlord of this place. However, speaking up to here, Pei Tianhong couldn't help but sneer and say, Humans are ultimately controlled by emotions and desires. After unifying the southern continent, the ambitions of the ancestors of these two families became even greater. They both wanted to control the southern continent. So, they had internal strife? Frenzied asked. That's right. Because of ambition and desire, the two of them agreed to fight in the Milky Way. It's said that the battle lasted for half a month. In the end, both of them perished. Pei Tianhong shook his head. Chapter 34:18. What? Both died? The white-eyed wolf paused and asked suspiciously, Didn't you say that the Yun family's old ancestor is the deputy temple master and the He family's old ancestor is the temple master? You've misunderstood. Pei Tianhong shook his head and smiled. The old ancestor is the old ancestor, and the primogenitor is the primogenitor. The two are different. Isn't the old ancestor a primogenitor? The white-eyed wolf looked at Madman and Qin Feiyong. Talking to you makes me feel like my intelligence is lowered. How can the old ancestor be a primogenitor? No matter where it is, the primogenitor refers to the first generation. But the old ancestor can be called an old ancestor if they have a bit of seniority, age, and strength. Madman was helpless. I see. The white-eyed wolf nodded in realization. That's right. The Yun family's old ancestor and the He family's old ancestor are both descendants of the two primogenitors, Pei Tianhong said. The white-eyed wolf had an awkward expression. I don't know much about the relationship between you humans. Please don't laugh at me. Pei Tianhong shook his head and laughed. Because of that battle, the two primogenitors both died, and the Yun and He families formed an irreconcilable enmity. Don't think that they are harmonious on the surface, but in reality, the two families are constantly scheming against each other. Interesting. Qin Feiyong chuckled and asked, Are there many people who know about this? Definitely not many. Because the two primogenitors didn't announce their battle, I only heard about it later. Pei Tianhong said. So even though the temple seems harmonious now, there are undercurrents surging? Qin Feiyong asked. That's right. Both the Yun and He families want to eliminate each other, unify the temple, and dominate the southern continent. However, the He family has developed better in recent years. That's because monstrous geniuses are constantly being born in their clan. Now, almost 2/3 of the people in this temple are from the He clan. Some of them are from the He clan, and some of them are outsiders that the He clan has recruited. These people who don't share the same surname were all groomed by the He family. They are all geniuses that are one in a million. In the beginning, the Yun family and the He family were equal in strength. But now, the He family has basically suppressed the Yun family. This is also the reason why the Yun family became the second most powerful family. Pei Tianhong said that He clan's ancestor is indeed quite capable. Qin Feiyong smiled. That's for sure. Otherwise, how can he suppress the Yun family's old ancestor and sit firmly on the seat of the temple master? However, the Yun family will definitely not sit still and wait for death. I heard that they've been secretly developing their forces for a long time. Furthermore, I've heard that a demon-level genius was born in this generation of the Yun family, Pei Tianhong said. Monster? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes, I've heard that he comprehended an ultimate law. However, the Yun family has protected this person very well. They didn't disclose what ultimate law he comprehended to the public at all. They didn't even tell the public who his parents are, what his name is, or what he looks like. It's not just the He family. Even our Blood Hall, Demonic Hall, and Rogue Cultivator Alliance have investigated in the past. We couldn't help but suspect that the Yun family might have fabricated this out of thin air. Actually, there's no such thing at all, Pei Tianhong said. Ultimate law, the Yun family. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and shook his head. With the Yun family's status, they shouldn't lie to the outside world. We thought so too. However, we've basically investigated the more outstanding geniuses of the Yun family, but none of them possess the space-time law, Pei Tianhong said. Then, is it possible that this person is hiding among those less outstanding geniuses? Qin Feiyong asked. Of course, this is also possible. Moreover, if this is the case, then this monster of the Yun family, whether it's his temperament or other aspects, can't be underestimated. After all, to be able to hide for so many years without leaving any traces, it's not something an ordinary young person can do. Pei Tianhong said. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. He was also quite curious about this monster of the Yun family. I'm a little puzzled. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf spoke, its brows tightly knitted together. What? Qin Feiyong and the others looked at it. The white-eyed wolf said, Isn't it just comprehending an ultimate law? What's so rare about it that they have to protect it so carefully? Pei Tianhong was stunned. Wang Changyuan was also extremely speechless. He shook his head and said, It's really as the saying goes, if you're not in charge, you don't know the cost of daily necessities. What does this have to do with daily necessities? The white-eyed wolf rolled its eyes. Isn't this the same logic? You confuse laws, and now you've mastered the 3 ultimate laws. You do have the qualifications to say that ultimate laws aren't rare. But you have to think about it. Not everyone has a talent like yours. Let's take the simplest example. Let's talk about the young master and Frenzy. Their talents are okay, right? Wang Changyuan looked at the white-eyed wolf and asked, Isn't this nonsense? Who doesn't know what's in front of them? The white-eyed wolf rolled its eyes at Wang Changyuan. Yes, their talents are obvious to all. But look, until now, how many ultimate laws have they comprehended? Wang Changyuan smiled slightly. The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. Looking at Qin Feiyong and Frenzy, it couldn't help but fall silent. The young master has comprehended the cause and effect law until now. Frenzy hasn't comprehended a single ultimate law until now because his death law and space-time law are all inherited. When Wang Changyuan said this, he felt Frenzy's unfriendly gaze and hurriedly smiled. Don't misunderstand. It's not that I'm looking down on you. You were lucky to be able to obtain the inheritance. Others say that luck is also a part of strength, right? Frenzy was speechless and waved his hand. I'm not that stingy. Wang Changyuan smiled awkwardly and looked at the white-eyed wolf. I won't go into the details. You should also understand that those who can comprehend an ultimate law by themselves aren't bad. All right. The white-eyed wolf nodded. In fact, people like Etienne and that monster from the Yun family aren't any worse than the young master and Frenzy. The difference is that they haven't opened the door of potential, and they aren't like the young master and Frenzy, who relied on themselves since young and experienced countless tempering. Their mentality and character are better than those flowers that grew up in a greenhouse. Pei Tianhong smiled faintly. Wang Changyuan continued Pei Tianhong's words. That's why talent is actually secondary. You still have to rely on your own hard work. Don't make it sound so nice. Who would want to work hard if they have a background? Old Qin and I have no choice. Isn't there a famous saying in the mortal world? Children from poor families can take care of their families early. Frenzy shook his head. Not everyone is like that. I personally feel that even if you and the young master are given a strong family background, you will still work harder than other people of the same age. Because character decides everything. Wang Changyuan smiled. You're bullshitting. Do you know old Qin's previous identity? He's the son of an emperor. Although the great Qin Empire can't be compared to a small family in the sky cloud domain, it's still a giant that unified the entire continent. In fact, he's also a hedonistic son. That's why he was forced out. Frenzy shook his head. Hey, what are you talking about? Who's the hedonistic son? When I was young, I was quite hardworking. What 4 books and 5 classics, astronomy, geography, zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, which one haven't I learned? Don't slander me. If we're talking about hedonistic, then it should be you. Do you still need me to tell you all the things you've done in Nine Heavens Palace? Qin Feiyong wasn't happy. Cough, cough. Frenzy coughed dryly and laughed dryly. Let's not expose each other's background. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes and looked at Pei Tianhong. Since the Yun family and the He family have a grudge, then we shouldn't try to rope in the Yun family. After all, we'll offend the He family. That's for sure. There's gain and loss. However, in the long run, if we help the Yun family destroy the He family and take over the temple and the southern continent, then forming an alliance with the Yun family is equivalent to forming an alliance with the entire southern continent. The eastern continent's demonic palace and the western continent's rogue cultivator alliance are already our allies. If we add the southern continent, think about it. At that time, half of the sky cloud boundary will be in our hands. Then, we'll have a greater chance of fighting against the dragons. Pei Tianhong smiled. Old man, you're really dishonest. Not only do you want to drag the temple down, but you also want to drag the demonic palace and the rogue cultivator alliance down. The white-eyed wolf looked at him with disdain. Cough, cough. Pei Tianhong's face darkened and said angrily, Isn't this all for the young master? It's a thankless task. Don't take it seriously. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. After muttering to himself for a while, he shook his head and said, however, that ingrate truly understands me. The dragon race is coming for me. Furthermore, the strength of the dragon race is already beyond imagination. I will not implicate others. But, Pei Tianhong frowned. I know what you mean. The dragons are too strong. Our strength isn't enough. However, I believe that sooner or later, we'll surpass them. As for the demonic palace, the rogue cultivator alliance, and the temple, if we let them join in, I'll feel guilty when the dragons take revenge. I don't want to owe others too much. However, we can get to know the Yun family. After all, one more friend means one more path. Qin Feiyong smiled. Also, we have to figure out who is worthy of us befriending between the Yun family and the He family. We can't just look at Yun Zifeng's performance and think that the Yun family is good. The He family is a scourge. That's too one-sided. Madman added. Chapter 34:19. That's right. Even if we have to help the right person. We don't want to help a white-eyed wolf. After helping them get rid of their opponent, they will bite us back. Qin Feiyong shook his head. He had seen too many tricks of biting the hand that fed them. Then this matter. Pei Tianhong pondered for a while and shook his head with a smile. I don't dare to talk nonsense because I don't have a good impression of the Yun and He family's ancestors. Why? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. Why else? As opponents, it's because they don't like each other. Pei Tianhong shook his head and laughed. Then as opponents, you should have some understanding of their character, right? The white-eyed wolf asked. In my eyes, they are all selfish people. If it's a cooperation, it doesn't matter at all. After all, they are just scheming against each other and using each other. But if you want to make friends, you have to find out for yourself. Pei Tianhong said. He didn't dare to interfere in this matter. If he really met a white-eyed wolf, even if Qin Feiyang didn't blame him, he would feel guilty. All right. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said with a smile, "This matter isn't urgent. Time will reveal a person's heart. Let's go back to the Eastern continent and see what's the current situation. Then we'll go to the Western continent and see how the Rogue Cultivator Alliance is developing." All right. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought the 3 people and 1 wolf to the sky above the mountains. Behind them was the Devil Land. Qin Feiyang turned around and looked at the Devil Land. Frenzy, the white-eyed wolf, and Pei Tianhong also turned around. Their eyes gradually flashed with a trace of cold light. Dragons, bring it on. Eastern continent. A few months passed. The Rogue Cultivator Alliance had already withdrawn from the Eastern continent. The major cities that were once controlled by the Rogue Cultivator Alliance were now all taken over by the Demon Palace. The Demon Palace had finally completely ruled the Eastern continent. And after so long, the news of the Blood Palace's destruction had already spread in the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyang, the lunatic, had undoubtedly become the center of attention again. When everyone talked about them, there was only reverence and awe. Such a huge blood hall was actually destroyed in the hands of 2 little brats. How inconceivable was this? But this was real. No one could erase it, and no one had the right to do so. Speaking of Qin Feiyang and Madman Imo, when I first saw them in Tianfeng City, this old man felt that their lives would definitely be extraordinary. Look, it is indeed so. Ocean of Cloud City. In a small tea house, an old storyteller sat at a table, stroking his white beard. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being as he spoke calmly. When the surrounding people who were drinking tea heard this, they couldn't help but show looks of disdain. If you had seen through it earlier, you would have gone to curry favor with them. Why would you stay in this lousy place to tell stories? Why don't you take a look at where you are bragging? However, no one exposed him. Ever since the Blood Hall was destroyed, such people had appeared every day. Some people said that they knew Qin Feiyang and Madman Imo. Some people said that they had sat together and drank wine. There were even more outrageous people who said that they were distant relatives of Qin Feiyang and the lunatic. There were even people who pretended to be their fiancés. What kind of relatives could Qin Feiyang and the lunatic have in the Sky Cloud realm? Not to mention their fiancés. Qin Feiyang was already married. The lunatic's fiancé was also in the Black Tortoise realm. That was why people were afraid of being famous and pigs were afraid of being fat. Once you were famous, all kinds of demons and ghosts would come out. 2 days later, on a street, 2 ordinary-looking young men were walking side by side. One of them was holding a cute puppy in his arms. Behind them, there were 2 old men. That's right. They were Qin Feiyang, the lunatic, the white-eyed wolf, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan. In the past 2 days, they had gone to many places and had more or less understood the current situation of the Eastern continent. However, when they heard those rumors, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Distant relatives were understandable, but fiancés were a little speechless. Wang Changyuan glanced at the people coming and going and said via voice transmission, "Young master, look, many young people now have a wolf by their side. They are all learning from you." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Indeed, as Wang Changyuan said, many young people in Cloud Sea City had a wolf by their side. Just like this moment. In their line of sight, there were 5 or 6 young men, each with a wolf, walking on the street proudly. There were gold, white, black, silver. 2 days ago, when they had just arrived in Cloud Sea City, they were still a little depressed. When did wolves become so popular? After asking around, they found out that it was because of him. Because he had a white-eyed wolf by his side. So those young people all imitated him. Especially those who were from wealthy families. They felt embarrassed to go out without a wolf by their side. This also made Qin Feiyang rather speechless. Unknowingly, they arrived at the entrance of Tianyue Restaurant. Although they had been in Cloud Sea City for 2 days, they hadn't been to Tianyue Restaurant and had been staying in the small restaurant. "Since we're here, Why don't we go in and have a seat? Lunatic asked. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and said with a smile, Okay, let's see if Yi Miao and Yue Qing are here. So, 4 people and a wolf entered Tianyue restaurant. Welcome. A waiter came up to them. Because they had changed their appearances, no one could recognize them. Is there a private room? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. No, because it's mealtime now. Not only are there no private rooms, but there are also no seats in the hall. The waiter smiled apologetically. Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. They looked up and scanned the hall. Sure enough, it was full. And the funny thing was that basically everyone here had a wolf by their side. If you're not in a hurry, you can sit here and wait for a while. Once there are seats, I'll call you immediately. The waiter pointed to the side. There was a waiting area there, and many people were sitting there. Obviously, they were also queuing. Is Tianyue Restaurant's business so good? Lunatic was stunned. It's all right. Everyone is giving us face. The waiter smiled. All right then, we'll wait. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay, please go ahead. I'll prepare the tea. With that, the waiter turned around and left quickly. Qin Feiyang and Lunatic walked into the waiting area and sat on the seats. Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong stood behind Qin Feiyang consciously. You guys have a seat too. Why are you standing? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and said suspiciously. The two of them looked at each other and walked to the side and sat down. The waiter walked over with a teapot and teacups and said with a smile, I'm really sorry. Please have some tea to relieve your boredom. Okay, go ahead. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Okay. The waiter nodded in response and turned around to run away. Wang Changyuan smiled. The waiter of Tianyue Restaurant has a pretty good attitude. This is the way of business. A restaurant not only needs to have special dishes, but also good service. If the service is good and the customers feel comfortable, they will naturally come back to patronize again. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Wang Changyuan was slightly stunned and shook his head. I didn't expect young master to have such an understanding of business. I haven't eaten dragon meat, but haven't I seen a dragon? Qin Feiyang smiled. You're quite arrogant. You've seen a dragon? Brother, where have you seen it? Tell me, let me see it too. Suddenly, a purple-clothed young man looked at Qin Feiyang and asked curiously. However, there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned to look at the purple-clothed young man and couldn't help but laugh. Arrogant posture, disdainful eyes, crossing one leg over the other, and a flirtatious woman sitting in his arms. At first glance, one could tell that he was a playboy. Not to mention a playboy, he didn't even like to bother with the geniuses of the major forces. Therefore, he only took a glance and looked away. Dragon? Not only had he seen it, but he had also killed many of them. Braised, stewed, barbecued, he had basically tried them all. It was quite delicious when he first ate it, but he got sick of it when he ate more. Young Masterly, look, he's laughing at you. The flirtatious woman looked at Qin Feiyang and snuggled in the purple-clothed young man's arms coquettishly. Laughing. Hearing that, the purple-clothed young man raised his eyebrows and looked at Qin Feiyang. What are you laughing at? Is it very funny? A cold light flashed in Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong's eyes. Ignore it. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly and continued drinking his tea. The flirtatious woman spoke again. Young Masterly, he actually ignored you. He really doesn't take you seriously. As a playboy, how could he withstand such provocation? He immediately put down the flirtatious woman and looked at Qin Feiyang. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Qin Feiyang frowned. Frenzy and the white-eyed wolf raised their heads and looked at the purple-clothed young man with a mocking expression. Is this person's brain rusty? Of all the people to provoke, why did he provoke them? Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong didn't care. They lowered their heads and silently tasted their tea. Don't talk about it. They were used to Qin Feiyang's tea, so they didn't feel anything when drinking this tea again. A dog. The flirtatious woman looked at the white-eyed wolf and was slightly stunned. She immediately mocked. Others bring wolves out, but you bring a dog out for a stroll. Don't you find it embarrassing? Young Masterly, show them how mighty and handsome our little white wolf is. Hearing this, the purple-clothed young man smiled proudly and said, "Little White, come out." Whoosh! Immediately, a white light flew out from the purple-clothed young man's sleeve and landed on his shoulder. It was a little white wolf. It was valiant and spirited. It seemed to be showing off something. What the hell? Bringing me out? Embarrassing? The white-eyed wolf was annoyed when he heard this. Calm down, calm down. Frenzy quickly comforted him and then glanced at the two. It was fine that they provoked Qin Feiyang, but they actually came to provoke the white-eyed wolf? They were really hopeless. These hedonistic sons of rich parents were everywhere. How is it? The purple-clothed young man raised his hand and touched the little white wolf's head. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others proudly. There were more than 10 people in the waiting area, but no one came to persuade them. They all looked like they were watching a good show. Chapter 34:20. Qin Feiyang looked at the purple-clothed youth with a strange expression. What's there to show off about hugging a little white wolf? Not only the purple-clothed youth, but even the little white wolf was arrogant. This little white wolf only had the cultivation of a war god. To the people of the sky cloud boundary, it was just a pet. What's there to be proud of with a pet? They were just like two clowns. We're just here to eat and drink, not to cause trouble. So, brother, please stop while you're ahead. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Each one of them came to imitate him with a wolf by their side, but now they're mocking him and the white-eyed wolf. It's funny just thinking about it. Qin Feiyang wasn't surprised by this kind of playboy. He was too lazy to bother with them. Are you implying that I'm causing trouble? The purple-clothed youth didn't let go and stared at Qin Feiyang. Am I not? Qin Feiyang asked back. His patience was almost worn out. He didn't want to talk nonsense anymore. This was simply looking for trouble. Humph! The purple-clothed youth snorted and slowly returned to his seat. He said faintly, "Fine. I'm too lazy to bother with you. After all, looking at your clothes, I can tell that you're from the countryside and haven't seen the world. If I really bully you, others will say that I'm bullying the weak and ruin my reputation." Qin Feiyang was stunned. The madman, the white-eyed wolf, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan were also stunned. They wouldn't deny that they're from the countryside. After all, they were indeed born in a small place. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan may have powerful cultivation and noble status, but they were also born in an ordinary family. They had to rely on their own efforts to reach where they are today. So, they couldn't deny this point. But to say that they haven't seen the world, that's funny. Not to mention Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong, even Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf had to go through countless trials and tribulations to reach where they were today. In terms of experience, not to mention this playboy in front of them, even the older generation of the sky cloud realm couldn't compare to them. As for bullying the weak, this was even more laughable. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan were both sovereigns who had mastered 2 supreme profundities. Madman and Qin Feiyang's cultivation had both reached the greater success sovereign realm, and they had grasped 2 supreme laws. And the ingrate had even grasped the supreme profundities of 3 supreme laws. As for the purple-clad young man, he was only at the perfect undead realm. He hadn't even reached the half-step sovereign realm. As for the beautiful woman, she wasn't even at the undead realm. She was only at the 9 heavens realm. At that time, who would be the bully? He really couldn't figure out who gave this purple-clothed young man the courage to say such words. They were just keeping a low profile and didn't reveal their aura. Otherwise, those at the undead realm and 9 heavens realm could only stand at the side and tremble. However, Qin Feiyang and the others still didn't bother about it. After all, their status, strength, and mentality weren't on the same level, so there was no need to waste words. When the purple-clad young man saw this, he thought that Qin Feiyang and the others were afraid and didn't dare to say anything. The pride on his face became thicker. "Young Master Li, how much longer do we have to wait? Didn't you say that you're very familiar with the Heavenly Joy Tower's Tower Lord? Why can't you just find her and arrange a private room for us?" The beautiful woman was also very proud as she shook the purple-clad young man's arm and said in a coquettish voice, "No hurry. There aren't any empty seats now. Even if we find the Tower Lord, it's useless. She can't possibly chase the guests out. After all, she's doing business. The purple-clad young man comforted. But we've already waited for so long. The beautiful woman seemed to have suffered a great grievance. She even glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others and said unhappily, I still have to sit together with these bumpkins. How annoying. The madman's brows twitched. She really didn't know how to restrain herself? Annoying. Don't look at them. The purple-clad young man calmly said, I don't care. In any case, I don't want to wait anymore. The beautiful woman turned her head and pouted. She seemed very fake. The purple-clad young man couldn't help but feel a headache. He turned and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and frowned. The heavenly immortal tower isn't a place you can come to. Hurry up and scram. Don't be an eyesore and make my woman angry. Trying to take advantage of us? Qin Feiyong instantly frowned. His patience was really reaching its limit. He didn't have the ability to find Yueqing and Emiao to arrange a private room for them. Now, he was shamelessly pushing all the responsibility to them? Did you hear that? I told you to scram. The purple-clad young man shouted. Slap. Qin Feiyong couldn't bear it any longer. He stood up and slapped the purple-clad young man's face. At this moment, the purple-clad young man was stunned. The beautiful woman and the little white wolf were stunned as well. The people who were watching the show at the side were also stunned. He actually hit them? You dare to hit me? The purple-clad young man touched his face and looked at Qin Feiyong in disbelief. I'm already going easy on you. If I had my temper in the past, you would have been a corpse by now. I'll give you a chance. Get out of my sight immediately. A cold light flickered in Qin Feiyong's eyes. Such people wouldn't be obedient unless they were beaten. Bastard! Do you know who I am? The purple-clad young man roared with rage in his eyes. His roar instantly alarmed the people in the hall and the waiters of the restaurant. Everyone looked over. Isn't that young Masterly? He's a famous profligate son of our city. He was actually beaten up? Someone looked at the purple-clad young man in astonishment. Obviously, the purple-clad young man wasn't just a regular customer of Tianyue restaurant. He was also a famous person in Cloud Sea City. However, Qin Feiyong and the others didn't have any impression of him. They never paid attention to profligate sons of rich families. The waiters of the restaurant reacted and hurriedly ran into the waiting area. When they saw Qin Feiyong and the purple-clad young man, they asked suspiciously, What's going on? The beautiful woman looked at the waiters arrogantly and said angrily, Drive these bumpkins out right now. Do you think you'll be done with that? The purple-clad young man smiled coldly. He looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said sternly, If you don't kneel down and apologize today, don't even think about stepping out of Tianyue restaurant. Young Masterly, calm down first. The waiters of the restaurant saw that the situation was getting worse and better, so they quickly smiled apologetically and comforted him. Then, they looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said, If you've really said or done something wrong and offended young Masterly, please apologize to him and let's turn this into a small matter, okay? Ask him yourself. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Then, he returned to his seat and continued to drink his tea. The waiters looked at Qin Feiyong and then at the purple-clad young man. They were at a loss of what to do. Seeing Qin Feiyong's attitude, the purple-clad young man was furious. He took a step forward and slapped away the teacup in Qin Feiyong's hand. The teacup was smashed into pieces and the tea splashed all over the floor. Qin Feiyong suddenly raised his head and stared at the purple-clad young man. The purple-clad young man's eyes trembled and a sense of horror emerged in his heart. He felt that he was facing a devil at this moment. The atmosphere here was getting heavier and heavier. Everyone, please calm down. The waiters were also in a terrible fix. He knew young Master Li's background, so he couldn't be complacent easily. As for Qin Feiyong and the others, although they looked ordinary, they must have a certain level of confidence to slap young Master Li in public. Perhaps they were just pretending to be weak. Moreover, Tianyue restaurant had a rule that forbade them from being rude to any customer. Even if it was a beggar, as long as they were here to spend money, they had to treat them warmly. So, for a moment, he didn't know how to solve the problem. There are so many people who don't know what's good for them. Yes, young Master Li's family is one of the top families in Cloud Sea City. Offending him is like courting death. Most importantly, this is Tianyue Restaurant. Although the owners of Tianyue Restaurant are Yueqing and Yi Miao, everyone knows that the person behind them is Qin Feiyang. No one has ever dared to cause trouble in Tianyue Restaurant. This matter is really going to blow up. We can't afford to offend the Li family, and now there's Tianyue Restaurant. These people will definitely suffer. So, if you know what's good for you, you'd better apologize quickly. The crowd looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and discussed animatedly. Did you hear that? Quickly kneel down and apologize. For the sake of Tianyue Restaurant, I won't hold it against you. The young man in purple sneered at Qin Feiyang. Sigh. Qin Feiyang shook his head and looked at the waiter. Call your housemaster out. What? The waiter was slightly stunned and frowned. Is there a need to disturb the housemaster over such a small matter? The purple-clothed youth also looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered. Don't you dare say that you know the housemaster. A person like you isn't even fit to carry the housemaster's shoes. So, don't put on an act. People who don't know might think that you're some big shot. Qin Feiyang ignored him and looked at the waiter. The waiter hesitated. Fine, you want to see the housemaster, right? I'll call her for you. I'd like to see what you're going to say to the housemaster when she comes. The young man in purple sneered and took out the divine sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyang changed his teacup and drank his tea while saying indifferently, as long as she comes, I don't need to say anything. She'll ask someone to drive you out directly. He originally wanted to keep a low profile, but this person was too insensible. He had no choice but to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Haha, as soon as he said that, it immediately caused an uproar of laughter. Even the waiter in the restaurant couldn't help but laugh. You're bragging too much. Who do you think you are? Qin Feiyang, madmanimo? You're such a big shot. Good, good, good. The young man in purple also laughed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I'd like to see if I'm the one who will be driven out. Or will you be driven out? Qin Feiyang just smiled faintly. The young man in purple had a look of ridicule in his eyes and activated the divine sound transmission stone. Not long after, an illusory figure appeared. It was none other than Yi Miao. Young Master Li, how do you have the time to send me a message? Yi Miao asked with a smile. Miss Miao Miao, I'm sorry. If it weren't for some special circumstances, I wouldn't have bothered you, as I know you must be very busy. The young man in purple said with a smile. His words were full of flattery, and his eyes were filled with admiration. Chapter 34:21. Special circumstances? Yi Miao was taken aback. That's right. I was slapped by a country bumpkin in public in your Tianyue restaurant. You should come and deal with this matter. There was a trace of resentment in the young man's eyes. Yi Miao frowned and smiled. Young Master Li, don't joke around. How could someone cause trouble in Tianyue restaurant? You still don't believe me? Look at the handprint on my face. You can ask the waiter in your restaurant. The young man in purple pointed at the handprint on his face and said angrily. Then, he pulled the waiter in front of him. Yi Miao Miao glanced at the purple-clothed young man's face before turning to the shop assistant and asking, Is there really such a thing? Yes. The waiter nodded. Hearing this, Yi Miao's face darkened slightly and said, Wait here. I'll be right there. With that, the illusory figure dissipated. Brat, just you wait. The young man in purple put away the divine voice stone and looked coldly at Qin Feiyang. The flirtatious woman hugged the young man's arm and sneered. Almost everyone else had a gloating look on their faces. But for this, Qin Feiyang, Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, and Pei Tianhong turned a blind eye and drank their tea quietly. In less than 10 breaths, a woman in colorful clothes with an exquisite figure and graceful bearing walked into the Tianyue Tower. Leader. The waiter hurried to greet her. What's going on? Yi Miao asked. The waiter said, I don't know either. I was serving a guest outside when I suddenly heard a commotion in the waiting area. When I turned around, I saw them arguing. Yi Miao raised her eyebrows and walked into the waiting area. The young man in purple immediately retreated to the side of the flirtatious woman and walked in front of Yi Miao, looking like a pervert. This made the flirtatious woman very unhappy. In fact, not only Yi Miao, but also Yueqing was a goddess in the hearts of many young people. Not only was he capable, but he was also related to Qin Feiyang. If he were to marry them, it would mean that he would have a huge backer. Yi Miao glanced at the palm print on the purple-clothed young man's face. Then, her gaze landed on Qin Feiyang and the others. Powerful. She was quite knowledgeable. Although Qin Feiyang and the others were restraining their auras and it was impossible to tell what their cultivation levels were, the temperament and the hidden sharpness of their auras were directly pressing down on the divine soul. Long time no see. Qin Feiyang put down his teacup and looked up at Yi Miao with a smile. That smile, that gaze. Yi Miao was stunned. Why did she look so much like that man? You are. She looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. It's only been a few months since we parted in the Western continent. Have you forgotten about me so quickly? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. After we parted in the Western continent, a few months, Yi Miao murmured. Suddenly, her gaze trembled. She looked at the frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf and exclaimed in surprise, "It's you guys." "Who else?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "What's going on?" Seeing this scene, everyone was a little taken aback. They thought that Yi Miao would definitely help the purple-clothed young man. However, looking at the current situation, it seemed that something was not right. That was because they saw not only surprise in Yi Miao's eyes, but also a trace of reverence and even a trace of admiration. That's right. That was admiration. Admiration for the man in front of her. Miss Miao Miao? The purple-clothed young man could not help but frown. Yi Miao took a deep breath and turned to look at the purple-clothed young man. Then, she looked at the waiter and said expressionlessly, "Throw them out?" "Yes, throw them out." The purple-clothed young man sneered. He thought that Yi Miao meant to throw Qin Feiyang and the others out. The waiter was not sure at first, but after hearing the purple-clothed young man's words, he thought so too. He walked towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Throw this piece of trash with the surnamely out." Yi Miao looked at the waiter and shouted, "Ah!" The waiter was stunned. He quickly stopped and looked at the purple-clothed young man. "Miss Miao Miao, are you mistaken?" The purple-clothed young man was also stunned. Yi Miao turned a deaf ear to his words and glanced at the waiter. "Do you want me to repeat myself?" The waiter shuddered and immediately ran to the purple-clothed young man. He pointed at the door and said, "Young Masterly, please." "Yi Miao, what do you mean?" Young Masterly was instantly furious. He actually managed to blast him out of the room. As the son of the Li family patriarch, he was treated in such a manner again. This was simply a humiliation to him. "Young Masterly? Don't make it difficult for me." Seeing this, the waiter frowned and said in a low voice, "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like this?" The purple-clothed young man shouted at the waiter. Then, he looked at Yi Miao and said angrily, "You need to give me an explanation? Why should I explain my actions to you? If you really want an explanation, I can only tell you that you've offended someone you shouldn't have." Yi Miao sneered. "Someone I shouldn't have." Hearing this, the purple-clothed young man was stunned. He could not help but look at Qin Feiyang and the others. Could it be that these people were pretending to be weak? The others were also thinking about it. With the strength of Tianyue Restaurant, they did not even care about those wealthy and prominent families. This was because Qin Feiyang was not the only one behind Tianyue Restaurant. The Demon Palace was also taking care of them. However, at this moment, Yi Miao said that they had offended someone they should not have offended. This was enough to prove that these people definitely had a powerful background. Men. Seeing that the purple-clothed young man did not move, the waiter shouted. Immediately, 5 burly men in black ran out from the back hall. They were all at the eternal perfection stage. "Throw them out," the waiter said. The 5 burly men in black nodded and immediately went forward. They led the purple-clothed young man and the beautiful woman to the entrance and threw them on the street like garbage. The little white wolf was not spared either. The 2 men and the wolf were in an extremely sorry state. "From now on, you're not allowed to take half a step into Tianyue Restaurant." Yi Miao walked to the entrance and said coldly to the 2 men. Then, She turned and walked toward Qin Feiyong and the others with a smile on her face. It was a completely different treatment. The purple-clothed young man got up and looked at the crowd around him. They were all looking at him with ridicule. The anger in his heart could not be contained. He stared at Miao's back and muttered, "Bitch, just you wait." With that, he turned and left angrily. Young Masterly, the beautiful woman hurriedly chased after him. "Get lost." The purple-clothed young man turned and mercilessly kicked the beautiful woman away. The woman was rolling on the ground in pain. "I didn't expect that." He really didn't say much, and he already chased young Masterly out. Isn't Miao going to ask about the details? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyong and the others, their hearts filled with disbelief. Who exactly were these people? Looking at Miao again, she walked to Qin Feiyong and the others and said with a smile, "When did you come back?" 2 days ago. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. 2 days ago. Why did you come to Tianwei restaurant only now? Besides, you should have told me in advance that you were coming so that I could have prepared a welcome dinner for you. Don't you treat me as a friend? Miao was a little unhappy. Not at all. I know you're very busy, so I didn't want to disturb you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Since you're here, I have to welcome you personally no matter how busy I am. After Miao finished speaking, she looked at the waiter beside her and ordered, "Arrange a private room immediately." "Boss, there are no more private rooms." The waiter hurriedly said, "No more? If there's no more, make one available." Miao said angrily. "But there are guests everywhere. How can we make one available?" The waiter was a little troubled. Miao was stunned, then patted her head. She looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said with a smile, "I'm so happy to see you guys back that I'm a little confused." Then, she looked at the waiter again and said, "Tell the kitchen to prepare a portion of all the signature dishes of Tianwei restaurant and send it to the VIP room. Also, go to the wine cellar and send the best wine to me." VIP room? The waiter was slightly stunned and could not help but look up at the top floor. There were hundreds of private rooms in Tianwei restaurant, but there was only one VIP room. This VIP room was never opened to the public by the two bosses. It was specially used to entertain distinguished guests. Those who had entered the VIP room were all famous big shots, such as the Demon Hall Master, Deputy Hall Master Chu Yun, and Elder Hua. In short, except for such people, no one was qualified to step into the VIP room on the top floor. But now, the boss actually wanted to use the VIP room to entertain these people in front of them. This background was truly unfathomable. "Go quickly," Miao Miao shouted. "Yes, yes, yes." The waiter came back to his senses, nodded hurriedly, and ran to the kitchen. Miao also looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, "Qin." But before she could say anything, Qin Feiyong interrupted Miao and said with a smile, "You're the host? You go first." Miao was stunned and nodded with a smile. Then, she turned and walked upstairs with a trace of suspicion. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other and also stood up to follow. Awesome. Who the hell is this? Even Miao is so polite? Everyone looked at the backs of Qin Feiyong and the others with a look of suspicion. About a moment later, Qin Feiyong and the others followed Miao into the VIP room. The VIP room was extremely large, magnificent, and incomparably imposing. Miao walked into the tea room, pointed at the chair beside the tea table, and said with a smile, "Qin Dage, please sit." "Sit down." Qin Feiyong nodded and led Madman and Pei Tianhong to sit in front of the tea table. "You should be big brother Madman." Miao looked at Madman and asked with a smile, "Little girl, you have good eyesight." Madman laughed and pointed at Pei Tianhong and Pei Tianhong, saying, "Then guess who these two are?" Miao looked at the two with a trace of suspicion in her eyes. "All right, don't keep me in suspense. They are Old Pei and Old Wang, the Blood Hall's Hallmaster and the Dark Guard's Deputy Commander. You've seen them before." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Miao's heart trembled as she bowed and said, "Greetings to the two lords." Although Pei Tianhong and Pei Tianhong had kidnapped her, the two of them were too strong. Now that they were following Qin Feiyong, she didn't dare to have any complaints. Pei Tianhong waved his hand. He didn't feel guilty or apologetic, because in his eyes, other than Qin Feiyang. No one had the right to make him apologize, even if he had done something to hurt Miao. Chapter 3422. After knowing that it was Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan, Miao seemed a little unnatural. Don't be nervous. We're all on the same side now. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. And Miao nodded and looked at Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Why did you change your appearance?" Previously, when she was about to call Qin Dage, she was also stopped by Qin Feiyang. So, there should be something wrong. As for the purple-clothed young man, she did not ask. If it was someone else, she would definitely ask clearly. But the person involved was Qin Feiyang. After being together for so long, she understood Qin Feiyang's character. He would not take the initiative to cause trouble. Moreover, with Qin Feiyang's current strength and status, a playboy like the purple-clothed young man would not even bother to look at them, let alone take the initiative to provoke them. So, without a doubt, it must be the purple-clothed young man who caused trouble first. It's a long story. When Elder Hua and the others come, I'll tell you slowly. Anyway, for now, try not to get involved with me. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and took out the divine sound transmission stone. Buzz. After a while, Elder Hua's shadow appeared. Elder Hua's face was filled with joy because through the divine sound transmission stone, he knew that it was Qin Feiyang who sent him a message. But when he saw the unfamiliar face in front of him, he was stunned. But soon, he realized what was going on. It must be Qin Feiyang who changed his appearance, because it was impossible for anyone to impersonate the divine sound transmission stone. Elder Hua, long time no see. Qin Feiyang smiled. Brat, you still dare to smile? What did you say back then? Before you left, you told us. But what happened? You ran to the Demon Land without saying a word. Elder Hua's face darkened. I'm sorry. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. You don't need to tell this old man these things. Go tell your master. When he found out that you went to the Shadow Demon Land without a word, he and the Hall of Famers were very worried. Elder Hua said indifferently. Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist looked at each other and felt quite touched. Qin Feiyang said, when the time comes, we will go to the Western continent to ask for forgiveness. Come to the Tianyue building first. It's best if you bring Chu Yun and the Hall Master with you. I have something to say. What is it? Elder Hua was suspicious. Something very important. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. Seeing this, Elder Hua's eyelids twitched. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, he knew that it wasn't a small matter. He nodded and said, all right, I'll go look for the Hall Master and Little Yun immediately. Don't let anyone see you. Go directly to the VIP room. Qin Feiyang reminded. Yes. Elder Hua nodded and turned off the Divine Voice Stone. Qin Feiyang also put away the Divine Voice Stone. Miao had already brewed the tea. Qin Feiyang took a sip of the tea and asked, Where's Yueqing? Why don't I see her? Sister Yueqing is in the Western continent now. Miao said with a smile. The Western continent? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Isn't our goal to open a branch in the Western continent? In the past, the Blood Hall controlled the Western continent, and we couldn't do anything about it. But it's different now. The Rogue Cultivators Alliance is in charge of the Western continent now. Back then, after you sent us back to the Eastern continent, Sister Yueqing and I went to the Deputy Alliance Master and told him about our request. He agreed without hesitation. So, Sister Yueqing has been busy in the Western continent, and I stayed behind to look after the Tianyue building in the Eastern continent. Miao said with a smile. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. The madman laughed cruelly and said, Then shouldn't you thank us properly? We've never dared to forget the help that Qin Dage and Brother Mo have given us. And now, regardless of whether it's the Tianyue building in the Eastern continent or the Western continent, we've given 1/3 of our profits to the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance for free. It's a win-win situation. Miao smiled. That's right. After all, you're in someone else's territory. Just treat it as a protection fee. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes. Miao nodded. What about Yun Ziang? Qin Feiyong asked. There's no news. Yi Miao shook her head. There's still no news? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes. Ever since he left last time, he hasn't come back, and he hasn't responded to any of our messages. If not for the fact that the contract bridge is still there, we would have thought that he had unfortunately died outside. But we don't know where exactly he is. And what exactly is he doing? Miao Miao sighed while dense worry covered the space between her brows. The existence of the contract bridge didn't mean that he was definitely safe. He could be trapped somewhere, or he could be kidnapped. In any case, it was worrying. After all, she and Yueqing had been taken care of by Yun Ziang back then. And back then, the establishment of the Tianyue building was also thanks to Yun Ziang's help. Otherwise, with Yueqing's ability, it wouldn't have been so smooth. Wait, Yun Ziang? Yun Zifeng? These two names seem a little. White-eyed Wolf was suddenly surprised. Qin Feiyong and the other three were also slightly taken aback. That's right. Yun Ziang, Yun Zifeng. Why did these sound like brothers' names? Was it a coincidence? It should be a coincidence. The Sky Cloud realm is so big, there are even people with the same name, not to mention only one-word difference. And the Yun family doesn't seem to have a young man named Yun Ziang, Pei Tianhong said. Really? Qin Feiyong asked. Pei Tianhong thought for a moment and said, I don't know about the ordinary disciples of the Yun family, but I can guarantee that there are no genius disciples of the Yun family. Ordinary disciples. Qin Feiyong lowered his head, his eyes flickering. Pei Tianhong said that the monster protected by the Yun family had activated a kind of strongest law. If he remembered correctly, Yun Ziang had mastered the space-time law, and it just so happened that his surname was Yun. Was this really a coincidence? Swish. At this moment, a space-time crack appeared. Following closely, three figures walked out of the space-time crack. It was Elder Hua and the other two. They had been to this VIP room before, so they knew the coordinates. Let's also show our faces. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, took out the facial restoration pill, and threw it into his mouth. Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan all returned to their original appearances. It really is you guys. Looks like you guys have gained a lot in the Yin Devil Land. You guys have already broken through to the greater success dominator realm. Chu Yun looked at Qin Feiyong and Frenzy and said, Of course. Frenzy smiled proudly. You guys really don't know what it means to be low-key. Chu Yun rolled her eyes, then looked at Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan, her pupils shrinking slightly. Why was there such a sense of oppression? Although Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan didn't reveal any aura, the moment their gazes met, Chu Yun suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of oppression in her heart. This was like the oppression from a superior. Demon Palace Hallmaster and Elder Hua were also sizing up the two of them, and they also felt a strong sense of oppression. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan didn't speak, silently drinking their tea with an unfathomable look. Did you find the fire dragon? Elder Hua retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyong, Frenzy, and White-Eyed Wolf. Found it. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then did you kill it? Elder Hua asked. No. Qin Feiyong shook his head. No? Elder Hua was stunned. One had to know that Qin Feiyong brought 3 sovereign weapons, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, 9 commanders, and 6,000 dark guards with him. Such a lineup could flatten an entire continent, but they couldn't kill the fire dragon? What a joke. When we went in, we brought a horsetail whisk. As for the ancient castle and your sovereign weapons, they are all recovering in the Black Tortoise world. The 6,000 dark guards and 9 commanders are also recovering in the Black Tortoise world. The fire dragon's strength and foundation far exceeded our imagination. So not only did we not kill it, we almost lost our lives. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. It's that powerful? Elder Hua couldn't believe it. Although they didn't bring the ancient castle and their sovereign weapons, they still had the horsetail whisk and Pei Tianhong. Moreover, the White-Eyed Wolf, Frenzy, and Qin Feiyong weren't weak either. Putting everything else aside, just the horsetail whisk strength was enough to kill the fire dragon easily. I called you guys here to tell you guys about this. You guys have to be mentally prepared, Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice. Elder Hua and the others looked at each other. Was it that serious? Then I'll leave first, Yi Miao said. She was very tactful. Since it was something important, it was better for her to leave. No need. You'll know about this sooner or later. It's better for you to know now. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Okay. Yi Miao nodded and sat quietly at the side. Qin Feiyong looked at Wang Changyuan and said, Old Wang, don't hide anything. Tell us everything about the dragons. Yes. Wang Changyuan drank a mouthful of tea to moisten his throat, then put down the teacup and set up a soundproof barrier. He told them everything he saw and experienced in the Yin Demon Land. In the entire VIP room, there was no other sound except for Wang Changyuan's voice. In the meantime, the waiter brought the food and wine, but was sent away by Yi Miao. About half an hour later, Wang Changyuan finally finished and looked at the four of them. That's it. You guys take your time to digest it. They indeed needed time to digest it. Although Elder Hua and the others were big shots of the Demon Palace and the overlord of the Eastern Continent, it was the first time they heard about the dragons, just like Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. Originally, in their opinion, big shots like them were already at the top of the pyramid in the Sky Cloud boundary. Except for the sovereign weapons, they were invincible. As long as they joined forces, it wouldn't be a problem to unify the Sky Cloud boundary. But they never thought that there would be such a huge monster hidden in the Yin Demon Land. Not to mention the strength of the dragon tribe, there were already 2 sovereign divine weapons in their possession. For them, it was completely a bolt of lightning that caught them off guard. It was hard for them to accept it. Even Elder Hua and the others were like this, let alone Yi Miao. She was so scared that she couldn't even speak. Chapter 34-23. After a long time, Elder Hua and the other 2 finally finished digesting it. In other words, the dragon race has begun to hunt you down? Elder Hua asked. If it wasn't for Qin Feiyong and the others, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. It was too shocking. Who would have thought that there was such a behemoth hidden in the Sky Cloud realm? The most important thing was, for so many years, there had been no news of the disappearance of the dragons. If it wasn't for Qin Feiyong and the others chasing after the fire dragon and going deep into the inner area, they would probably never have discovered the existence of the dragons. Dragon's nest, dragons. Just how strong was this mysterious force? That's right. As expected, they should be blocking the exit of the Yin Devil Land. Qin Feiyong nodded. Sure enough, when the devil is 1 foot tall, the Tao is 10 feet tall. Although the dragons are powerful, compared to you guys, it doesn't seem to be enough. Elder Hua chuckled. You don't have to praise us like that. Facing the dragons, we are also scared to death. Qin Feiyong shook his head. This wasn't an ordinary force. To put it bluntly, Qin Feiyong and the others weren't afraid of the Divine Palace and Sky Palace at all. But this was the dragons. So far, 2 sovereign divine weapons had appeared. Who knew how many more they had? Then how are you going to deal with it? The Devil Palace Lord asked. We definitely can't fight them head-on. Let's slowly find an opportunity. However, from now on, you have to keep a distance from us, Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice. The 3 fell silent. We don't care. We have nothing to lose. At most, we will fight them to the death. If we can't win, we will run. But you guys are different. You are the leaders of the Devil Palace with heavy responsibilities. You can't give up the Devil Palace and follow us to the edge of the world. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Makes sense. Chu Yun nodded. She looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Not bad. You still know how to think for others. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He looked at Chu Yun curiously and asked, From what you're saying in your eyes in the past, I was a selfish person? Cough cough. Chu Yun coughed dryly to hide the awkwardness on her face. In the past, he did not have a good impression of Qin Feiyong and the madman. As far as she was concerned, the reason Qin Feiyong and Lu Xian were on good terms with the Devil Hall was entirely because they wanted to rely on the Devil Hall to deal with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Blood Hall. Qin Feiyong felt helpless. What happened to sincerity and trust? Yi Miao asked. So, you changed your appearance and came to see us because you were worried that you would implicate us? That's right. If I come to you openly now, the dragons will definitely come looking for you when they receive the news. At that time, there's no guarantee that nothing will happen. Qin Feiyang sighed. But whether it's the Devil Hall or my Tianyue building, everyone knows about our relationship with you. Even if we pretend that we don't know each other now, no one will believe us. Yi Miao frowned. That's for sure. After the dragons enter the eastern continent, they will definitely come looking for you after investigating what happened. However, we are the only ones who know what kind of relationship we have. When the dragons ask you about it, you can say that in the past, we were only using each other and taking what we needed. As long as the dragons are a little more rational, they won't do anything to you. At most, they will send someone to monitor you. Qin Feiyang said. Why? Chu Yun asked. Because your Devil Hall is the overlord of the eastern continent. Although your strength is much weaker than the dragons, after so many years of operation, you have already won the hearts of the people. There's a good saying that water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. This sentence can also be used on the dragons. They dare to kill anyone, but they don't dare to offend everyone in the world. And you have to know that although the dragons have always existed in the Sky Cloud realm, they have never appeared. Now that they suddenly appear, everyone will definitely resist them at first. So, if they appear too strong and ferocious as soon as they appear, it will definitely arouse strong disgust from everyone. Although they are strong, they definitely don't have the guts to become enemies with everyone in the world. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. That makes sense. Elder Hua nodded and asked with a smile. Then, what if they ask us to deal with you with them? It doesn't matter. Just do it. We won't blame you. Qin Feiyang shrugged. Don't make it sound so nice. If they hold a grudge against us, we can't afford to offend them. Chu Yun said. Do I look like that kind of person to you? Qin Feiyang was helpless. Couldn't they trust him a little more? They had agreed that they would be friends in the future. Besides, Fire Lotus was Elder Hua's disciple. No matter what, he couldn't do something like deceiving his master. Little Yuner, why do I feel that you always like to bicker with old Qin? Madman looked at Chu Yun and chuckled. Shut up. Chu Yun glared at him. Do I have to shut up just because you want me to? I am now a man who has mastered 2 of the strongest profound meanings. Madman was proud. Amazing? Chu Yun looked at him indifferently. Of course. Madman smiled proudly. He didn't know what it meant to be thick-skinned. Chu Yun was so angry that her teeth itched. Chu Yun was speechless. Elder Hua shook his head and laughed. He waved his hand and said, all right. Those who don't know will think that you two are arguing. Huh. Madman was stunned. Chu Yun's expression stiffened slightly. She looked at Elder Hua angrily and said, Old man, what are you talking about? How can you say this casually? That's right. How can you say this casually? I am a handsome man with extraordinary talent. How can I fancy such a tigress? Madman pursed his lips. When Chu Yun heard this, she immediately pointed her spear at Madman and shouted, What did you say? Say it again? Tell me the truth. Let me tell you, I am taken. Don't have any ideas about me. Madman scratched his chin and said shamelessly. Chu Yun clenched her jade-like hands and was about to go berserk. Stop. Elder Hua also had a helpless look on his face. He was just trying to persuade them, but he didn't expect them to become more and more fierce. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and said, Our Demon Palace and Heavenly Joy Tower are easy to deal with. Although you are disciples of our Demon Palace, it is only in name. As for Fire Lotus, although she is my personal disciple, not many people know about it. The only thing that is difficult to deal with now is the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. That's right. The Vice Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Hall of Famers are both your masters. Moreover, this is something that everyone in the world knows. They can't possibly say that they used each other in the past, right? Even if they say that, those dragons will definitely not be stupid enough to believe them. The Demon Palace Hall Master also spoke. I have already planned for this matter. In short, I will not implicate any of you. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he called out Fire Lotus. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Hall Master, Senior Sister. Fire Lotus bowed to Elder Hua and the other two. Senior Sister? Madman was stunned. Didn't Elder Hua say before that Chu Yun is his student? So Chu Yun is equivalent to Fire Lotus's senior sister. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. That's right. Madman slapped his head. Good, good, good. You have already broken through to the half-step ruler realm. It seems like you haven't been lazy these past few months. Elder Hua's face was full of love. Qin Dage and Little Madman have improved so quickly. How would I dare to be lazy? Fire Lotus shook her head and smiled. What are you comparing with them for? They are two monsters. Elder Hua pursed his lips, then smiled and said, You have to have a good attitude and fight steadily. Don't be in a hurry. Okay. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Return the sovereign divine weapon to them. Don't let others say that we want to take their sovereign divine weapon. Don't be so weird. I didn't say that. Chu Yun raised her eyebrows. Senior sister, can you not take it personally? Are we talking about you? Madman looked at her with disdain. Chu Yun glared at him fiercely. Fire Lotus chuckled, then took out a red sword and handed it to Elder Hua. Elder Hua sized up the red sword and nodded with a smile. Not bad, not bad. In just a few months, it has been restored to its original state. The origin energy is indeed the best medicine for a sovereign divine weapon. Master, it has only been a few months outside, but hundreds of thousands of years have passed in the Black Tortoise world. Fire Lotus reminded. Yes, yes, yes. Look at my head. I am so old and muddle-headed. I always forget about this. Elder Hua shook his head. Looking at these young people in front of him who were like the sun in the sky, he had no choice but to admit that he was old. Suddenly, Elder Hua turned to look at Chu Yun and said, Xiao Yun, why don't you make a trip to the Een Devil Land and see if the dragons are really guarding the exit? Why aren't you going? Chu Yun frowned. Elder Hua laughed embarrassedly. Don't you control the laws of time and space? It's more convenient. Don't make it sound so nice. You're obviously lazy. Chu Yun glared at Elder Hua in dissatisfaction, then opened a space teleportation tunnel and left. Did you see that? A typical sharp-tongued but soft-hearted person. Elder Hua looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and laughed. Qin Feiyong, Madman, and Fire Lotus looked at each other and smiled. Then, Qin Feiyong picked up his teacup and drank his tea while muttering to himself, as if he was thinking about something. Fire Lotus started to chat with Elder Hua. The Demon Palace's Hall Master also started to chat with Pei Tianhong. Although they were old enemies in the past, they had known each other for many years and had quite a bit of friendship. Furthermore, now that Pei Tianhong had followed Qin Feiyong, he could be considered to have turned from an enemy into a friend. Dan Wangkai. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong seemed to have made a decision and secretly sent a sound transmission to Dan Wangkai. What is it? Dan Wangkai's voice sounded in Qin Feiyong's mind. Qin Feiyong sent a sound transmission. Organize 3 sets of pills that can open the door to potential for me. Do you need every kind of pill? Dan Wangkai was startled and asked. Of course. The whole set. Qin Feiyong replied. All right, I'll organize it right away. Dan Wangkai did not ask for the reason. Other than refining pills, he was not interested in these things. In any case, he would just do whatever Qin Feiyong said. Not long later, Dan Wangkai prepared 3 palm-sized jade boxes that contained all sorts of pills. There were potential pills, small fortune pills, great fortune pills, and so on. Qin Feiyong took out 3 jade boxes and gently placed them on the tea table without saying a word. Chapter 34-24. Elder Hua and the others also saw the 3 jade boxes. But because the lid was closed, they couldn't sense the aura of the pills, so they didn't pay much attention to it. After a while, Qin Feiyong turned to look at Miao and said with a smile, Miao Miao, you go out first. I have some personal matters to discuss with Elder Hua and the others. Okay, Miao nodded. She was very sensible and didn't ask anything. She stood up and left. What personal matters? Elder Hua and the Demon Hall Master looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang looked at the tightly shut door and smiled at the two of them. I'll tell you when senior sister Chu Yun comes back. I guarantee that you'll be surprised. So mysterious. Elder Hua rolled his eyes at him and continued to chat with Fire Lotus. His words were filled with concern for Fire Lotus. After a while, a space-time rift appeared. Chu Yun walked out from inside, her face full of solemnity. What's wrong? Elder Hua and the Demon Hall Master raised their heads to look at Chu Yun and couldn't help but frown. There are indeed many people hiding at the exit of the Devil Land. Chu Yun said in a deep voice. Is he inside? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and projected the figure of the white-clothed youth with his divine power. Yes, there's also a little girl. Chu Yun waved her hand, and a woman in a black dress appeared. She said, behind her is a black-clothed old man and a black-clothed burly man. The aura they exuded is very terrifying. It's them? Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other. You've seen them before? Chu Yun asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and explained, at that time, when senior brother Feng Zi was receiving the inheritance, it was them who came out halfway. As for the woman who attacked me from behind, I think it should be her. We finally found her. The madman and the white-eyed wolf also laughed. An eye for an eye. When this woman came to ambush them, they naturally had to let her have a taste of being ambushed. Then how strong are they? Elder Hui asked. Very strong. This old man has mastered the laws of destruction and the profundities of darkness. This big man, on the other hand, has mastered the laws of force and the laws of earth. Qin Feiyang said. This, Chu Yun and the others looked at each other. One of them actually grasped two supreme profundities? It's not only them. The middle-aged couple beside the white-clothed young man also each grasped two supreme profound meanings. As for the sovereign divine weapon, the white dragon sword, that we spoke of earlier, it is also in the hands of that young man. Now you know how strong the dragons are. Qin Feiyang smiled. You can still laugh? Elder Hua and the other two were speechless. Facing such a colossus, if it were anyone else, they would definitely be worried to death all day long. But this kid didn't seem to care at all. If you don't laugh, will you cry? If crying can solve the problem, I don't mind bawling my eyes out. Qin Feiyang shook his head with a smile. He finally pushed 3 jade boxes in front of the 3 and said with a smile, These are for you. For us? The 3 were startled. Chu Yun grabbed one of the jade boxes and asked suspiciously, What's this? You'll know when you see it. Qin Feiyang smiled. Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, Fire Lotus, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan were curious too, as Qin Feiyang didn't tell them about it in advance. Chu Yun slowly opened the jade boxes. A strong medicinal fragrance immediately burst out, followed by dragon-shaped core essences floating out from the jade boxes. Each pill had 7 dragon-shaped core essences. They were round and emitted a blurry glow. What kind of pill is this? Chu Yun was surprised. A pill that unlocks the door to potential. Qin Feiyang smiled. What? A pill that unlocks the door to potential? Apart from Chu Yun, Elder Hua and the Demon Hall leader were stunned too. Frenzy, Fire Lotus, and White-Eyed Wolf exchanged glances with one another with a smile in their eyes. The 3 of them were indeed worthy of Qin Feiyang's effort. Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong exchanged glances with one another and couldn't help but let out wry smiles. They had risked their lives to obtain the chance to unlock the door to potential, but the 3 of them had obtained all the pills without doing anything. Was this the difference between humans? However, there was nothing they could do. Although the 3 of them hadn't done anything, they had helped Qin Feiyang and the others greatly in the past. In fact, if it weren't for the Demon Hall supporting Qin Feiyang and the others, Qin Feiyang and the others wouldn't have been able to develop so smoothly in the Eastern continent. They deserved it. For Qin Feiyang to take out those medicinal pellets, it meant that he truly trusted the 3 of them. After a few breaths, Elder Hua and the Demon Hall leader came back to their senses and immediately stood up. Each of them grabbed a jade box and opened it. After a quick comparison, the pills in the 3 jade boxes were exactly the same. Elder Hua, are these really the pills that can unlock the door to potential? You stayed in the black tortoise world for the longest time, so you should have asked around in detail. Chu Yun asked in her heart with disbelief in her eyes. Qin Feiyong was actually willing to give them such precious pills? It was too unexpected. Elder Hua took out a potential pill and examined it carefully before putting it back. He then took out another potential pill and examined it carefully again. He took a deep breath and transmitted his voice. These are the pills that can unlock the door to potential. Although you don't recognize the other pills, you definitely aren't unfamiliar with the Shangqing nature pill. This is the pill that can unlock the door to potential in the sovereign realm. The two of them looked at the Shangqing nature pill in the jade boxes and didn't know what to say. You should know how shocking it would be if the pills that can unlock the door to potential were leaked. That's why I've been hiding it from you. Qin Feiyong smiled apologetically. It's fine, it's fine. Elder Hua waved his hand and couldn't calm down for a long time. Actually, they already knew. They wanted to ask Qin Feiyong previously, but Qin Feiyong went to the Yin Demon Land. They had no choice but to wait. However, they didn't expect that. He actually gave it to them when they met this time. It really caught them off guard. After a long time, Elder Hua took a deep breath and closed the jade boxes. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Is the first volume of the alchemy scripture in your hands?" I didn't know before, but after I asked Old Pei about the details of the first volume of the alchemy scripture and compared it with the handwriting in the second volume, we finally confirmed that the alchemy scripture in my hands is indeed the first volume of the alchemy scripture. Qin Feiyong said, "Then where did you get the first volume of the alchemy scripture?" The Demon Hall Master asked. "The lower realm, the place where I was born and raised. And it's not a handwritten copy, it's the real thing." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. The three of them looked at each other, their faces full of bitter smiles. No wonder they couldn't find any news of the first volume of the alchemy scripture after searching all the places in the Sky Cloud realm. It turned out that the first volume of the alchemy scripture had gone to the lower realm. It was really fate playing tricks on them. Why would a complete alchemy scripture be divided into 2 volumes? The most outrageous thing was that the first volume was thrown in the lower realm and the second volume in the Sky Cloud realm. Without the first volume, what was the use of the second volume? After a while, the three of them calmed down and put away the jade boxes without being polite. "I hope the three of you can help me keep this a secret." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Of course. The three of them nodded. They still had this bit of common sense. Once it was leaked, it would definitely attract countless people. For Qin Feiyong, there would be endless trouble. After being together for so long, they knew a little about Qin Feiyong's character. He was most afraid of trouble. "All right then. In the future, we will part ways for the time being." Qin Feiyong stood up and smiled. "You're leaving just like that?" The three of them were stunned. "Why? You still can't bear to part with us." The madman laughed. "Let's talk about you. Your strength is not much, but your face is really thick." Chu Yun rolled her eyes. The madman laughed and said, "Your face is not thick, but it's a little, what? Make it clear." Chu Yun stared at the madman with an unfriendly expression, like a tiger that was about to go crazy. "This, cough cough, I'm praising you. Beautiful, capable, and impeccable. Men will feel ashamed when they see you. But you really have to change. If you're so strong, be careful that you won't be able to get married in the future." After the madman said that, he took the last illusion form pill and threw it into his mouth. In the end, he ran out without looking back. Chu Yun was quite happy at first. Beautiful, capable, these were all recognized. But when she heard the last sentence, she didn't feel good. He actually cursed her that she wouldn't be able to get married? She was immediately annoyed. But seeing the madman run out, she didn't dare to chase after him. She could only gnash her teeth and say some harsh words. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyong and Fire Lotus couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. No one would have thought that the dignified deputy hall master of the Demon Palace would have such a side. "Fire Lotus, you go to the Black Tortoise realm first." Qin Feiyong looked at Fire Lotus and said, "Okay." Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and sent Fire Lotus to the Black Tortoise realm. Then, he looked at Elder Hua and the other two and said with a smile, "Then we'll take our leave first. Be careful." Elder Hua nodded. "I will." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, took out an illusion form pill, and changed back to his previous appearance. Then, he led White-Eyed Wolf and Pei Tianhong out of the VIP room. Sigh. I really didn't expect the situation in the Sky Cloud realm to become so complicated. Elder Hua shook his head and sighed. Yeah, the dragons haven't even officially stepped into the eastern continent, but I can't help but feel pressured. Chu Yun nodded. Such a colossus was like a mountain pressing down on their heads. It made it hard for them to breathe. Don't think too much. According to Qin Feiyong, our demon palace shouldn't be in too much trouble. Little Yun, when we go back, immediately give the order. Whether it's the disciples, the demon palace, or the city lords, they have to behave. If anyone dares to cause trouble, then don't blame me for being merciless. A cold light flashed in the demon palace hall master's eyes. Understood. Chu Yun nodded. Then let's go back. Hurry up and open the gate of potential. Comprehend the supreme profundities of the various laws. I have a feeling that Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan should have already grasped the two supreme profundities, the Demon Palace Hall Master said. This old man has the same feeling, because that pressure is too obvious. All along, our strength has been on par with theirs. Now, we can't be suppressed by them. That would be embarrassing. Elder Hua smiled. Then, Chu Yun opened a space-time teleportation channel and left. Chapter 34-25. Outside, when Qin Feiyong and the others landed and walked into the hall, everyone's gaze landed on them. Who was it? Why did Miao place so much importance on them? Qin Feiyong and the madman returned to their previous appearances. The White-Eyed Wolf and Pei Tianhong were no exception. Miao was waiting for Qin Feiyong and the others in the hall. When she saw Qin Feiyong and the others, she immediately went up and asked, "Are you leaving now?" And Qin Feiyong nodded. "What about the food and wine I prepared?" Miao frowned. "You can eat." Qin Feiyong chuckled. "Me?" Miao shook her head helplessly. "I can't eat alone, but I know you guys are very busy, so I won't force you guys. Take care." "You too." Qin Feiyong smiled and walked out of Tianyue building. "Where are we going next?" Wang Changyuan secretly asked. Qin Feiyong smiled. "You can ask Senior Brother and the White-Eyed Wolf. They already have a plan in mind." Wang Changyuan was slightly stunned and couldn't help but turn to look at the madman and the White-Eyed Wolf. The White-Eyed Wolf glanced at Wang Changyuan and said indifferently, "You can't even guess this? You are indeed not the same as us. I'm not a roundworm in your stomach. How could I guess?" Wang Changyuan felt wronged. The madman transmitted his voice. "Old Wang, let me ask you. Why did we say that we finally found the main person? Finding the main person means finding the main person. What else can there be?" Wang Changyuan was suspicious. "Your brain is not good. You have to think more." The madman shook his head. Wang Changyuan was even more puzzled. What exactly was it? Could he explain it all at once? The madman was speechless. He had already explained it so clearly, but he still couldn't understand. "Pig brain," he said. "Of course it's to give them a taste of their own medicine." Giving him a taste of his own medicine? Wang Changyuan was taken aback. After pondering for a while, he asked, "You mean, we should also sneak attack that woman?" "Yes." The madman nodded and then chuckled. He sent a voice transmission. "They think we are in the Demon Land, so they won't be on guard." Understood. Wang Changyuan nodded. These few people were indeed vengeful, but it was also quite interesting. The dragons had already suffered a great loss at their hands. If this sneak attack was successful, they would definitely be furious. Suddenly, the White-Eyed Wolf, who was lying on Qin Feiyong's shoulder, glanced at the crowd behind him and frowned slightly. "What is it?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "It seems like someone is following us." The White-Eyed Wolf grumbled. "Stalking? It can't be. Who would be so reckless?" Qin Feiyang, Madman, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan also secretly paid attention. Very soon, they discovered that someone was really following them. It was an inconspicuous thin man in his 40s. He was about 1.7 meters tall and wore a simple black robe. His tracking skills were also extremely skilled. If not for the fact that Qin Feiyang and the others were experienced people, even if they bumped into this person, they wouldn't have thought that he was following them. Why would someone follow us? Could it be someone from the Demon Palace? Wang Changyuan was surprised. Impossible. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If the Demon Palace had something to do, there was no need to send someone to follow them. They could just say it directly. Is that someone from Tianyue Building? Wang Changyuan asked again. That's even more impossible. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled faintly. No need to guess. When we catch him, the truth will naturally be revealed. Next, four people and one wolf strolled around the streets as if nothing had happened. They watched the bustling scene and walked towards the city gate. Behind them, the thin man's eyes flashed as he entered an alley. Seeing that there was no one around, he took out the divine sound transmission stone. Buzz. At that moment, the image of a middle-aged man appeared. Master, they're heading out of the city. The thin man said respectfully. They didn't notice us, right? The middle-aged man asked. No. The thin man shook his head. Well done. All right, I'll go out of the city and make some arrangements. Lure them over later. The location is at Blackwater Lake. The middle-aged man instructed as a cold light flickered in his eyes. Yes. The thin man replied and put away the divine sound transmission stone. He walked out of the alley and continued to follow Qin Feiyang and the others. About an hour later, Qin Feiyang and the others finally walked out of the city gate. When they saw that the thin man was still following them, they walked all the way into the mountains. Seeing this, the thin man's eyes flashed and he quickly followed them. When they were far away from the city, the thin man suddenly attacked. An expanse of the power of law surged out and covered the sky as it charged towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Qin Feiyang and the others pretended to be shocked and turned around. You're courting death. Wang Changyuan was furious. The thin man turned around and fled in another direction. What's going on? Wang Changyuan was stunned. I think he's being instructed by someone to lure us to another place. Qin Feiyang pondered and said in a low voice, Preserve some strength and let him think that we're not strong enough. All right. Wang Changyuan nodded. The law of lightning appeared. He controlled his strength well and collided with the thin man's power of law. Puff. Wang Changyuan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and took a few steps back. The thin man's cultivation wasn't weak. He was at the sovereign realm. However, compared to Wang Changyuan, he was too inferior. Wang Changyuan's acting was pretty good. When the thin man sensed the fluctuation behind him, he turned around to check Wang Changyuan's situation and a cold smile appeared on his face. With such strength, he dared to provoke the Li family? He was courting death. You want to run after sneaking an attack on us? Chase. Qin Feiyang also pretended to be angry. With a roar, Wang Changyuan immediately led them and chased after the thin man. He controlled his speed well and was slightly slower than the thin man. About a few hundred breaths later, the group went deep into the mountains and a lake came into sight. The lake was about a few miles long. It was surrounded by mountains and old trees. This was the Blackwater Lake. Although it was called the Blackwater Lake, the lake water was extremely clear. Under the sunlight, there were layers of dazzling waves. When they flew to the center of the lake, the thin man's eyes flashed with a cold smile. He then stopped and turned around to look at Qin Feiyang and the others who were chasing after him. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. After flying above the lake, he raised his arms slightly and Wang Changyuan stopped. Why did you sneak an attack on us? Qin Feiyang looked at the thin man and asked. Their current aura was exactly the same as when they entered the Heavenly Joy Building. They had restrained their aura and it was impossible to see their cultivation. Why? Haha. The thin man laughed loudly. His eyes were full of mockery as he said, Because you offended someone you shouldn't have offended. As his voice fell, more than a dozen terrifying auras erupted. Splash! In the next moment, huge waves rose from the black water lake. More than a dozen people rushed out and surrounded Qin Feiyong and the others. Young master, you really have great foresight. As expected, you purposely led us here. Wang Changyuan laughed secretly. It's obvious. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and scanned the dozen people around him. There were a total of 13 people. The aura they exuded was quite powerful. 7 initial dominators, 4 initial dominators, and 1 greater dominator. The remaining one. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and looked at the person with the weakest aura. It was a young man in purple. His face was filled with hatred and resentment. Wasn't this the young man who was called Young Master Li in the Heavenly Joy Building? It's you? Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, and Pei Tianhong were also stunned. Yes, it's me. The killing intent in the young man's eyes wasn't concealed at all. What are you trying to say? Qin Feiyong frowned. What do you think? My Li clan is a first-rate clan in Ocean of Cloud City. It's only inferior to those extraordinary clans. You actually dared to humiliate me in public? You're courting death. The young man laughed ferociously. The Li clan is that formidable? Qin Feiyong was surprised, but his eyes were filled with amusement. Of course. The young man smiled proudly, and then he gazed at the middle-aged man. Father, don't kill them right away. I want to torture them properly and let them have a taste of what it's like to live a life worse than death. All right. The middle-aged man nodded. This middle-aged man was the one who'd sent the message to the thin man. He was the violet-clothed young man's father and the current patriarch of the Li clan. He was the only sovereign here at the Greater Dominator realm. The Li clan's patriarch sized up Qin Feiyong and the others, and then he gazed at the thin man and asked indifferently, "How's their strength?" "It's nothing. He suffered a huge loss when our laws collided just now." The thin man gazed at Wang Changyuan and spoke with disdain. Wang Changyuan couldn't help but want to laugh when he heard this. A sovereign at the initial stage actually dares to say that a sovereign at the perfection sovereign realm like me isn't anything great? So that's how it is. The Li clan's patriarch smiled with sudden understanding, and then he gazed at Qin Feiyong and the others. You dare to humiliate my son in public with such little strength? Why don't you ask why we humiliated him? Said Qin Feiyong. It's not important. The Li clan's patriarch spoke indifferently. It's not important? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned, and then he asked, in other words, your Li clan doesn't distinguish right from wrong when dealing with something? So what if we do? The Li clan's patriarch laughed coldly and proudly. All right, if we encounter unreasonable people, then we can only use unreasonable methods. Qin Feiyong smiled and said indifferently, Brother Wang, beat them up? All right. Wang Changyuan nodded. Beat us up? The group of people couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. Boom. However, when Wang Changyuan released his aura without holding back, the group of people's expressions froze, and they were immediately stunned. This aura, why is it so strong? Do you really think that our strength is nothing? Wang Changyuan laughed mockingly, and the aura of a sovereign realm great perfection pressed down on the group of people like a torrent. This is a sovereign realm great perfection. The Li clan's patriarch immediately panicked. This is impossible. The thin man also looked at Wang Changyuan in disbelief. A bunch of ants dare to offend the young master. Wang Changyuan's gaze turned cold, and the group of people immediately knelt down uncontrollably. Chapter 34:26. The moment they knelt in the air, the Li family's patriarch and the others felt as if they had been hit in the head. Especially the skinny man. How could he be so strong? They were filled with regret. Even a Paragon sovereign realm expert had to respectfully address him as young master. What kind of existence was this young man? Do you want to know who we are? The madman looked at them with a mocking gaze. They instinctively nodded. But when they came back to their senses, the Li family's patriarch quickly shook his head. We don't want to know. Why? The madman looked at him with a mocking gaze. Because if you know, you'll definitely kill us. We were blind. Please be magnanimous and spare our lives. We're willing to compensate for the trouble we've caused you. The Li family's patriarch said in panic. Kill us? Madman was taken aback for a moment before he laughed and said, You're quite enlightened. Spare us. The Li family's patriarch knelt in the air and kowtowed. If you don't want to know, then I'll let you know. I'll let you die in peace and know who you shouldn't have offended. The madman took out an appearance-restoring pill and placed it in his mouth. Then, he quickly recovered his true appearance under everyone's gazes. You are? The Li family's patriarch's eyes opened wide. Wasn't this the legendary madman? How could it be him? Who didn't know of the madman's name? Not only was his talent amazing, but he also had the Hall of Famers as his master. Impossible. My eyes must be playing tricks on me. The others shook their heads and didn't want to accept this fact. Wait, if this person was the madman, then wouldn't the young man beside him be? The group looked at Qin Feiyong in unison, and their faces were as pale as paper. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and consumed an illusion pill as well, recovering his true appearance. Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan exchanged glances and revealed their true appearances as well. Qin Feiyong, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, as a large family in Cloud Sea City, the Li family knew quite a bit about Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. So, the Li family's patriarch was stunned on the spot. In his heart, he was terrified to the extreme. How did he provoke such a terrifying group of people? Tell me about it now. Who is it that I can't afford to offend? Madman smiled playfully. It's you. It's you. I'm sorry. We were wrong. Please give us a way out and give us a way out. The head of the Li family was filled with regret. Was he stupid? They actually came here to scheme against this group of people? Which one of these people wasn't in existence whose name shook the Sky Cloud realm? Even the Wolf King by Qin Feiyong's side was known by everyone. Do we look like such benevolent people? The white-eyed wolf snickered. The head of the Li family fell silent. Benevolence? That was just a joke. By now, everyone knew that the destruction of the Blood Hall was orchestrated by Qin Feiyong and the Madman. Who didn't know that the reason why the Rogue Cultivator Alliance could rule the Western continent was because of these two people. What was even more terrifying was that everyone knew that Qin Feiyong had a sovereign divine weapon in his hand and mastered a divine art that was comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. How could they afford to offend him? A cold light flashed in the eyes of the head of the Li family. Gritting his teeth, he stood up and slapped the purple-clothed youth. Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. The lean man and the others also looked at him in astonishment. Father! The purple-clothed youth was also shocked and hurriedly shouted, What are you doing? What am I doing? It's all because of you, you unfilial son, causing trouble outside all day. The head of the Li family roared and slapped the head of the purple-clothed youth, accompanied by a shrill scream. The purple-clothed youth's head exploded like a watermelon, and his divine soul was annihilated on the spot. The eyes of the lean man and the others trembled. This was killing his son to protect himself. Although it was a bit ruthless, it was understandable. After all, the opponent was Qin Feiyong, the madman, and Pei Tianhong. If they didn't kill him, not only them, but the entire Li family would suffer. Because with the current status of Qin Feiyong and the others, they didn't need to personally make a move. Just a word from them would be enough to destroy the Li family. Wasn't the Zhao family the same in the past? Because Zhao Shaojin had Qin Feiyong behind him, he had fallen to the point where no one cared about him. In these years, the Zhao family had been moving around, trying to improve their relationship, but no one helped them. Even the relatives of the Zhao family weren't willing to lend a helping hand. The reason was because of Qin Feiyong. In the current Eastern continent, who would dare to offend him? That would be courting death. Quite decisive. Qin Feiyong snickered. Is it useful? The madman sneered and looked at Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan understood, and the law of lightning rolled out, turning into terrifying lightning that instantly flooded the area. Don't. The Li family's patriarch and the others thought that after killing the purple-clothed youth, Qin Feiyong and the others would let them go. So when they saw Wang Changyuan make a move, they were caught off guard and hurriedly shouted. But it was useless. Lightning surged, destroying everything in all directions. The group of people screamed in pain, and their souls were destroyed one after another. This is what a spoiled brat is like. Because of a spoiled brat, the entire family is implicated. So in the future, if you have children, you must discipline them well. The white-eyed wolf looked at the madman and Qin Fei Yong and said. The two of them looked at each other and directly rolled their eyes at the white-eyed wolf. What about the Li family? Wang Changyuan asked. Forget about the Li family. The Li family's patriarch is dead, and they have lost their pillar. Sooner or later, they will be like the Zhao family. Qin Fei Yong waved his hand and looked at the madman. Let's go to the entrance of the Demon Land. Just like that, the madman was stunned. What else? Qin Fei Yong asked. The madman said, no matter what, let's wait until the horsetail whisk is repaired. The other party had a sovereign weapon. With their strength, even if their sneak attack succeeded, they might not be able to cause any actual damage to the other party. Qin Fei Yong pondered for a while and looked at the madman. Then, you go to the western continent first and explain to Master and the others about the dragons. Okay. The madman nodded and then said, but what old was said makes sense. After all, we are the Deputy Alliance Leader and the disciples of the Hall of Famers. If we don't think of a way to draw the line, the consequences will be unpredictable. Then, do you have any ideas? Qin Fei Yong asked. Don't you have a lot of ideas? You still asked me. The madman pouted. I have thought about it. Just pretend to fall out with them. But to be honest, if we fall out with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance now, it will seem more deliberate. The dragons aren't stupid and aren't that easy to fool. Qin Fei Yong rubbed his forehead. Fall out? The madman pondered for a while and shook his head. Right now, there doesn't seem to be a better way. There is. Qin Fei Yong's eyes suddenly flashed. The madman was slightly stunned and smiled. I know you have a lot of ideas. Tell me. The premise of falling out with them is that there needs to be a convincing reason. If we take the initiative to fall out with them, then it won't work. But if Master and the others fall out first, then it's a different story. Qin Fei Yong smiled. They fall out first? The madman frowned. That's right. We can set up a trap. Let Master and the others pretend to want to steal our sovereign weapon and harm us. Qin Fei Yong said. The madman was stunned and asked, You mean, we have to set up a trap? The reason they want to take us as disciples is to find a chance to steal our sovereign weapon? That's right. Qin Fei Yong nodded. That's a convincing reason. But if that's the case, their reputation, the madman frowned. If this was the case, then the world would definitely spurn the vice leader and the Hall of Famers behind their backs. They even wanted to harm their own disciples. Although their reputation will be damaged, at least they can draw a clear line with us. Qin Fei Yong said. Then it seems that we can only wrong them first? The madman pondered for a moment and said, How about this? You go to the western continent first and ask if they are willing. Actually, there are other ways. For example, Master and the others can capture us and send us to the dragons. This way, they can draw a clear line with us. Qin Fei Yong said, Send us to the dragons? The madman, white-eyed wolf, Pei Tianhong, and Wang Changyuan looked at each other. That's right. Just treat it as a kind of flattering attitude. At that time, the dragons will watch Master and the others and send us to them. At that time, not only will the dragons not find trouble with Master and the others, but they will also trust Master and the others. Qin Fei Yong smiled. Hearing this, why do I feel that this method is more effective than the first one? The madman was stunned. Qin Fei Yong said, In short, you go and ask them first. If they are willing, then we will make a detailed plan. Then what are you going to do? The madman asked. I will go to the exit of the Demon Land and see how many dragons came this time. Qin Fei Yong's eyes flashed coldly. Okay. The madman nodded, opened a space-time rift and turned to leave. Let's go. Qin Fei Yong also looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws and opened a space-time passage. Now, the madman and the white-eyed wolf both grasped the law of space-time, so it was much more convenient than before. Because before, They had to rely on the space-time door or the snowflakes. Outside the Een Demon Land. The outside referred to the area outside the Een Demon Land. The black dragon had said that its nest was in the black cloud swamp in the outside area. Whoosh! In the sky above a canyon, a space-time rift appeared, and 3 people and 1 wolf silently walked out. It was Qin Feiyong and the others. Now, they did not disguise themselves, because there was no need to. After coming out of the space-time rift, Qin Feiyong looked around and activated the concealment art. He took the white-eyed wolf and Pei Tianhong and flew towards the entrance of the Een Demon Land. His eyes flashed coldly. Although Qin Feiyong looked relaxed on the surface, but in reality, he was more cautious. After all, the dragons of the Sky Cloud realm and the dragons of the Ancient realm were not on the same level. What they knew now was probably only the tip of the iceberg of the dragons. Chapter 34-27. About a moment later, the entrance to the Een Demon Land finally entered the line of sight of Qin Feiyong and the others. In front of the entrance, the ancient stone tablet was still standing. Qin Feiyong and the others stopped on a mountain not far away and scanned the entrance. They did not see the young man in white and the woman in black. Where were they? Chu Yunji had seen them when she came. It was impossible for them to leave in the blink of an eye. Look at that mountain peak. Suddenly, Pei Tianhong pointed to a mountain on the left. It was hundreds of feet high, and 3 figures could be seen standing on the cliff of the mountain peak. Qin Feiyong looked up and recognized at a glance that it was the young man in white and the middle-aged couple. Because they had activated the concealment technique, the 3 of them did not notice them. At this moment, they were also staring at the entrance of the Een Demon Land. Young master, I saw what you were looking for. Wang Changyuan's laughter suddenly sounded in Qin Feiyong's mind. Qin Feiyong was stunned, looked at Wang Changyuan, and then looked in the direction Wang Changyuan was looking, only to see 3 figures standing on a mountain peak on the right. The leader was the woman in the black dress. The old man in black and the burly man in black were also standing behind the woman. Not bad looking. Qin Feiyong laughed secretly. Indeed. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned, looked at the white-eyed wolf strangely and said, "Didn't you say that you wolves have a different appreciation level from us humans? The appreciation level can slowly evolve, don't you understand?" The white-eyed wolf despised. "So you're saying that you're also interested in human women? Do you want me to help you look for one?" Qin Feiyong laughed. "Get lost." The white-eyed wolf glared at him, and then said, "Besides, is she a human?" Qin Feiyong was stunned, then patted his head and said, "Yes, she's a divine dragon, and there's still a difference between us humans, but this is a good thing for you." "Good thing?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. "That's right. You're all beasts you can combine. But after you combine and give birth to a child, will it be a wolf or a divine dragon? It needs to be investigated." Qin Feiyong lowered his head and pondered. The corner of the ingrate's mouth twitched. He really wanted to curse, "Screw you. Wang Changyuan's sight, brother. Actually, you can really think about it." "Think about it. You're just a wolf," the white-eyed wolf said furiously. "It's not that I mean that, but it's the truth. In the eyes of the world, divine dragons are high and mighty divine beasts with noble bloodlines. But you wolves, to put it bluntly, are the synonym of insidious and lowly in the eyes of the world." Wang Changyuan secretly said, "You're the insidious one, you're the lowly one." The white-eyed wolf glared at Wang Changyuan. "I'm just trying to reason with you. If you're not convinced, go and find a dragon as your wife and prove it to everyone." Wang Changyuan said, "Provoke me?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "Yes, I'm provoking you. Do you want to be fooled?" Wang Changyuan laughed. "Do you think I'm that childish?" The white-eyed wolf looked disdainful, but there was an inexplicable light in his eyes when he looked at the woman in the black dress. Look at this wolf cub's eyes. He's not really going to find a dragon as his wife, right? Wang Changyuan glanced at the white-eyed wolf and secretly said to Qin Feiyong, "Isn't this very fun?" Qin Feiyong secretly laughed. Haha. Wang Changyuan also secretly laughed. Let's look for other dragons. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. Not long later, they found another 3 people on the other side of the mountain. Similarly, the leader was a youth in blood-red clothes. Behind him stood a man and a woman. Their auras were also unfathomable. It seems that every prince and princess has 2 super strong experts following them, Wang Changyuan muttered. This is the benefit of having a strong background. No matter where you go, there are people protecting you. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. But you have to admit that people like them who are often protected have limited future achievements. Pei Tianhong transmitted his voice. Not all of them. There are always a few who stand out from the crowd. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Next, they found a few more groups of people. The way these princes and princesses got along seemed to be a bit thought-provoking. Logically speaking, since they were all out to hunt them, they should work together. But now, they were all in one place and kept a distance from each other. It seemed that the competition within the dragons was quite big. A total of 7 groups of people, 3 princesses, 4 princes, 14 complete Dominator Realm experts who have mastered 2 types of profound meaning. They can't be underestimated. Wang Changyuan secretly sighed. There should still be people who haven't come out yet. Qin Feiyong whispered. If the dragons of the Sky Cloud Realm were the same as the dragons of the Ancient Realm, then the dragons of the Sky Cloud Realm should also have 10 major races. For example, Golden Dragon, Black Dragon, White Dragon, Silver Dragon, Blood Dragon, Fire Dragon, Sword Dragon, etc. Each race should have a prince or princess. In other words, there should be a total of 10 princes and princesses. Indeed, they couldn't be underestimated. Young Master, could it be that these princes and princesses all have a Dominator divine weapon? Pei Tianhong suddenly thought of something and transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyong's expression stiffened. If that was the case, then they would be in big trouble. If each of them had a Dominator divine weapon, how could they play? They should run for their lives as soon as possible. I didn't see the golden-haired youth. I heard from the fire dragon that it was a golden dragon and was addressed as His Highness. Then I think it should be the prince of the 5-clawed golden dragon race. We can't let this person go so easily, Wang Changyuan said. Indeed, I didn't see him. Qin Feiyong nodded. After pondering for a while, he suddenly frowned. What's wrong? Wang Changyuan looked at him suspiciously. I suddenly remembered that when the golden spear appeared, the golden-clothed youth and the fire dragon should have been watching us. Could this golden spear be directly related to them? Qin Feiyong frowned. You mean that they were the ones who sent the golden spear to save the fire dragon? Wang Changyuan asked. That's what I think. In other words, that golden spear is most likely the golden-clothed youth's Dominator divine weapon, Qin Feiyong said. Then according to what you said, these princes and princesses all have a Dominator divine weapon? Wang Changyuan frowned. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and shook his head. We can't rule out this possibility. It seems that we can't be careless in the future. Wang Changyuan sighed. If it was just these princes and princesses and their followers, Qin Feiyong and the others wouldn't be too afraid. But if they all had Dominator divine weapons, it would be a different story. Qin Feiyong smiled suspiciously and said, Actually, I don't care about these princes and princesses. Then who do you care about? Wang Changyuan and Pei Tianhong looked at him, puzzled. White-eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyong and pondered for a moment. The Ice Dragon's son and daughter? That's right. Back then, both the Ice Dragon's son and the Ice Dragon's daughter made us suffer. Of course, compared to before, this Prince of the Dragons is more difficult to deal with than the princess. However, this prince's character is also above that of the princess. Qin Feiyong smiled. Hearing you say that, I'm looking forward to meeting this pair of siblings. Pei Tianhong looked at the 2 people and the wolf and said, As the Ice Dragon's son and daughter, their status is definitely above these princes and princesses. We probably won't be able to meet them until the end. Wang Changyuan smiled. Let's take it slow. There's no rush. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and led the 2 people and the white-eyed wolf to a distant mountain peak to silently monitor the group. Time slowly passed. About an hour later, the divine message stone suddenly vibrated. It should be senior brother. You guys keep an eye here first. I'll go to the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang instructed Pei Tianhong and the White-Eyed Wolf before appearing above the Devil's Land and taking out the Divine Message Stone. Buzz. At that moment, Madman's shadow appeared. There was also the deputy leader, the leader, and the Hall of Famers. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Leader, Elder Qi. Qin Feiyang bowed to them one by one. You still know that this old man is your master? When we separated, what did I tell you? Before going to the Demon Land, tell us. In the end, you ran away without saying a word. In your eyes, do you still have me as your master? The Vice Alliance Master immediately scolded him to his face. Ha! Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. This feeling of being cared for was really good. What are you laughing at? Looking at you makes me angry. The deputy leader glared fiercely at Qin Feiyang. Then don't look at me. No one forced you. The Hall of Famers teased. What does it have to do with you when we're talking? Do you want to interrupt? The deputy leader glared at the Hall of Famers again with a displeased face. What a temper. You can't even speak properly. Feiyang, what did I tell you in the beginning? Before acknowledging a master, you have to look at his character first. Now you see, your cheap master's character is not good. The Hall of Famers looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Cheap master? The deputy leader's mouth twitched. Why didn't he say that he picked up a master for free? The leader shook his head and smiled. Looking at the two of them, he said, Okay, let's get down to business. Hearing this, the deputy leader and the Hall of Famers' expressions immediately became heavy. They looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Is what little madman said true? And Qin Feiyang nodded. I really didn't expect it. There is actually such a terrifying force hidden in our sky cloud realm. The deputy leader shook his head and sighed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Little madman has already said your plan. As long as we can protect the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, it's okay for us to suffer a little. Then you agree to set a trap? Qin Feiyang asked. And the deputy leader nodded and said with a wry smile, We can't think of a better way. You can go ahead and arrange it. We will fully cooperate. Thank you, Master. Qin Feiyang was touched. This was the trust in him. No matter what he did, he would unconditionally support him. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.